who's counting? All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Village of Weberville Council meeting on May 14th, 2024. President Hitchcock is unable to attend tonight, so as pro tem, I will be taking his place and running the meeting. We start with a call to order, please. Roll call.
Schulte?
Here.
Schoenberg? Here. Stanfield? Here. Walter? Here. Hitchcock absent. Quorum.
All right, we have a quorum. Everyone please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hope everybody is enjoying the new table format tonight. After talking with Jessica and Tammy, we agreed that it makes sense to kind of bring everybody a little bit closer, get better camera and audio, and table skirts were an excellent idea, and thank you for Tammy for putting those up. I think we look a lot more professional. So can I get an approval of the agenda? Is there anybody who wants to approve the agenda for tonight?
I will make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Motion by Lana, second by Sandra. Roll call.
Schulte?
Me last.
Schoenberg? Yes. Stanfield?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes. Okay. First is we have the public hearing for the mobile station billboard. I recommend to the council that we open the public hearing for the mobile station billboard at 6:01 p.m. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So at this point, if anybody has anything that they want to discuss or comments from the public.
I need to send you this.
Sorry?
I need to send you this second.
Oh, you're right. I am so sorry.
That's okay.
So moved.
By
Second.
Sandra.
Thank you.
Second?
Now we're good.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public or anything pertaining specifically to the mobile station billboard? I'm seeing none.
I'm here to speak.
Okay.
I can speak during this part, and then it'll be that.
Sorry?
They'll speak during this part, and then you guys will vote in the business.
Yeah, so if you'd like to speak now, that's fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Stand here or sit here? Oh, here.
Whatever,
Okay, good.
whatever
That's good.
floats your boat.
Oh, that's good. My name is Brian English. I've been here before, probably been a year, when my client is Digital One. They're a small digital billboard company based out of Lansing. We were in discussions with the Downtown Development Authority, it's probably been a year and a half ago, regarding a digital board out on 96 that's in the space that the Downtown Development Authority owns out there. Ultimately, we couldn't come to an agreement, so we, in the meantime, moved over to the mobile gas station. And we're in 2 locations there, but we're here this evening. I'm here to present for one, and that is the location on M52. And I'm not sure, I've not met Chris. Is Chris here? Chris
No, Chris is not here this evening.
Yeah, okay. So he's been very good to deal with, been very informative, cooperative. He and I spoke again today for probably 20 minutes. I believe he said within the packet, there is a handout regarding the ability to dim the sign, because I believe he said some of the village council members had a concern about that. And if you have it, great. If you don't, I can give you a copy. But essentially what the dimmability is saying is that the board's automatically dim based on the light. In the evenings, they'll dim. In the clouds, they will dim. And at night, they operate at about 4% of the light capacity that they do during midday high sun. So Chris was excited that there wasn't any manual requirement as far as the boards themselves. I do have photos that it's very elementary. and I've only got 5, but it basically shows a superimposed digital board at the location that we would like to place it, northbound and southbound. So I can hand those out. But the size of board that we would like to construct is a 10-foot by 20-foot. 10 foot would be the height, 20 foot would be the length or the width. I believe in the permit application, we requested a 30-foot overall height. That's incorrect. We only need a 20-foot or 25-foot overall height. Typically, the 10 by 20 boards that we do in the other communities were 30 feet, but in this instance, we're happy to keep that overall height at 25. We do go into other small communities. We are not obviously Lamar or Outfront or any of the Adams, the large companies. We are a very small company, and we like to go into the small communities like Hillsdale. We're in the process of getting aboard Hillsdale. We're in the process of trying to get aboard in St. John's. Obviously here in Weberville, we just were approved and we'll be constructing a board in Alma in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, in June 11th, that one goes up. And then we do have another one that will be going up in Kalamazoo, so that's a little bit larger. But our general target is a smaller community that may not have or may have lost their community newspaper, that may not have or may have lost their local radio station. For local advertisers, when I grew up in rural Ohio, you flipped on the local radio station in the morning and that's where you heard the advertisement. Frankly, too many advertisements, but that's where you heard it. Or you got the local Defiance Crescent News and that's where you looked at the advertisements. And those they're fewer and farther between now, and we think that, we know that our boards provide a nice advertising outlet to local community advertisers that don't have those outlets as much as they used to. As I look at the Weberville ordinance, the section at hand is 153.03, or I should say 083, and subsection A specifically says that the zoning director has the authority to review sign applications for compliance with the sign ordinance. It then goes on to say that the different sections of the signs that are permissible within the ordinance, one of them is B4, subsection B4, which is Highway Commercial District, which is where we are looking to go, just north of Ali, who's the owner, just north of his convenience store, the store itself. But it says that Highway Commercial District allows for the following signs. And they list 3 specific signs. It says that your ordinance allows for signs that are permissible within the other, and again, I'm not going to try to read it verbatim, but within the other zoned areas, B1, B2, and maybe there's another section. So any sign that's allowed in that is allowed in the highway commercial Ollie's property. It then says the next signs that are permissible out in the highway commercial is any sign that is permissible under the Michigan Highway Advertising Act. And then the third one is any freestanding sign, but then the freestanding signs, in order to satisfy your ordinance, you have to have 5 different sub checks or sub satisfactions within that third type of sign that can be there. As I read the ordinance, if you satisfy the Highway Act, then you're permitted to have a sign in Weberville, in this highway commercial zoned area. And as I read the ordinance, it says that the zoning director has that authority to grant that permit so long as that sign that's being presented satisfies the ordinance. And within the ordinance, if the sign satisfies the Highway Act, then you are permitted to have a sign. The Highway Act requires or allows for billboards. The Highway Act says that a billboard needs to be in a business district, which his location is within a business district. And then the Highway Act also says that a billboard is permissible within a business area within a county of less than 455,000 people, which Ingham County is. So if you are within a business area, which we are, If you are within a county that is less than 425,000 people, which Ingham County is, you can then construct a sign, so long as you're off of the state setbacks, which this sign is, or the right-of-way, which this sign is. You can construct a sign so long as it's not greater than 1,200 square feet. And the sign that we are proposing is 200 square feet, 1/6 of that. So my reading of the ordinance is that the zoning director has the authority, once we submit an application for a permit, and the zoning director reviews your ordinance, which within the highway commercial is one of three things. One, it can be within B1, B2 in the other zone, that's not our case. The third one is it's a freestanding sign, which that's not our case because a freestanding sign is different. And the second one, which we satisfy, is that it is allowable under the Michigan Highway Advertising Act. Then the zoning director has the authority to permit that, to issue a permit for that sign. So that would be my position and my client's position is that we do satisfy in the simplest terms, we satisfy the Highway Act. And your ordinance says if you satisfy the Highway Act, you're permitted to be granted a sign permit from the zoning director. Now, apart from that, if the village council is saying, well, we don't want Chris to have that authority, although I believe that your ordinance does, I believe it's clear that he has the authority. If you're saying, no, we're gonna make that decision, then I'm prepared to go through and address the 4 or 5 items that your ordinance says are required for a variance. Although my position would be a variance isn't needed here because the zoning director has the authority to grant the permit so long as we have satisfied the Highway Act, which I believe that we have. So if the pleasure of the village council is address those 5 things for a variance, I'm prepared to do it. I believe that Chris or Lisa McKenna they addressed that in their recommendation letter to the council, and I'm prepared to address those 5 different requirements under the ordinance if you wish for me to make that right.
Okay, so at this point, this is still public comment, so I don't want to deter any discussion, but I also don't want to jump ahead here. So unless you have anything else you want to say right now, or anybody else from the public want to put a pin in this, the mobile station billboard is first on new business, and at that point, I'll open it up for council discussion and comments from Ken. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's at a later point, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. This is just public comment, so I just wanted to give you your time to speak unencumbered and
Okay,
uninterrupted.
thank you. So when you put it back to discussion, at that point, if the members want me to address the 5 requirements, then I would do it then.
Absolutely.
Yep, thank you.
We'll try to get to you soon, so you're not stuck here.
Now, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Which I'm hearing none. Recommend to the council that we close the public hearing for the mobile billboard station at 6:13 p.m. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Regular public comment. Recommend the council we open that at 6:14. Is there a motion or so moved?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Any public comment or anything from anybody before we begin our regular meeting? This is for anything even outside the mobile station billboard. Okay? I hear none. Recommend to the council we close regular public comment at 6:15.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. On to the consent agenda. Has the council had ample time to review the minutes from April 30th, accounts payable, investment, revenue and expenditure, and balance reports? Take the silence as a yes. Is there a motion to approve the
I will
consent
make-
agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just have a question. I noticed it's on the accounts payable, the first page. Window tint, DPW windows.
That is for the windows in the office at the DPW. There's no blinds or curtains on them. So anytime after about 11 o'clock in the morning, the office heats up and the air conditioner runs all afternoon. Can't use my computer, basically I wear sunglasses. So instead of purchasing mini blinds that were gonna be about $40 a set because of the width of the windows, I thought it would be cheaper to go with window tint. I've actually got half of it installed already, and there's a significant difference already in sunlight coming through. So I was just trying to save a little bit of money and keep it cooler in the office so the air conditioner's not having to run as much. So that's what that's for. It's not going on a vehicle or nothing like that. It's all on the windows in the office. So that's what that is.
What level of tint is that?
I'd have to check the Amazon posting. I mean, you can see out of it, but
Can you see in?
you can see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So.
Does that satisfy your question?
That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, that's what it was for.
I had a question regarding the Chase credit card. So it looks like the May 14th A&P, $2,438.45 for DPW, office, water, sewer, and supplies. That's an awful lot for the credit card. And I'm just wondering if anything that's being regularly purchased can be done through some sort of service rather than just putting it on a credit card where there's, quite frankly, less transparency.
I'm not sure what that's for, because our Amazon account is all on invoice.
Well, and that's exactly my question is, what is this for?
I have no idea.
I know it's probably for my classes, they charge for the, like 500 for the room. Water and sewer, supplies, toilet paper, paper towel. That would go on the credit card though,
No, that'd be on Quill, wouldn't it?
yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay. So I
They
would,
do like last minute supplies, like if they need like something for,
right, and there's always going to be that, and I would just say, in the future, I think it would be beneficial for the council as well as the community to have a little bit more transparency, so I don't know if it's possible.
I can see if Hannah can break it out more than
Yeah,
what
to
it
print a
is.
report
Yeah.
of what the purchases are.
I wonder if it's in here.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I'll see if Hannah can break it out more than what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the only one I'm recognizing is the signs and posts. Just because the company that we're buying our street signs from, we don't have like a Net 30 account or anything.
Right. And I'm sure that, there's always going to be examples of that. I would just appreciate more transparency around what's going into this.
So I see here for the Chase, it's telling us the office equipment supplies $11.99, 408, if I'm reading this
Yeah,
correctly.
for postage and
Postage and building maintenance, 504 fund transfers, then it was 359.20 signs post, as you said, Ryan, $82.10. Then it says supplies, $513.50. Just was that your class that you're referring to?
I think so.
And then it says supplies, $168.01. Equipment maintenance and supplies, $163.97. And then again, equipment maintenance and supplies, $227.68.
Okay, I see that now.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
missed
sure what-
page 2.
Without her breaking it down even more, I'm not sure.
Right, I think that's probably sufficient. All right, my apologies.
Doesn't have to ask.
And also on the AMP is, I had a question for you, Ryan, for Hitchcock Trucking. The GMC1 brakes and ball joints for $2,934.
Yep.
Do we have a invoice or further breakdown of work on that?
Tammy would have it.
Tammy has?
Yeah, I don't get a bill from Hitchcock's, they just send it in to Tammy. Ended up having multiple brake rotors replaced, 2 brake calipers, brake pads on the front end, lower ball joints on the front end. It's got 134,000 miles on it, and they were all original parts. Before the new tires went on it last fall, it had really chewed up the front tires, half of them were bald. I still have them at the shop. I noticed just in driving it, the front end was just real loops on it, so I didn't want to cause any more damage. That ball joint or tie rod end break or something, all of a sudden here we are wrecking that truck, so that's why it went. You know, he did some maintenance on it, never been done, and so now it's done.
Right. So it was more than just brakes and ball joints, it sounds like.
Without seeing an exact breakdown, I don't know, I mean,
Okay.
brakes covers a lot between the
I
rotors.
mean, I was just surprised because, you know, being somewhat familiar with that year, make and model, to see almost $3,000 for
Yeah,
a pretty basic front end service.
yeah, I'm not sure,
I didn't know if there was more to it than just the line item.
no idea. It had, like I said, Tammy would have the invoice on it, and I don't know how far they break down their work, so I'm not sure on that.
I would say though, in the future, being that it was almost $3,000 for that truck, this is probably something that ought to go out to bid. You know, I get it, it's preventative, but that means it's not urgent. That means we have a little bit of time to bring this to the council and
It
seek
was-
options for repair.
It was right on the line of being preventative and emergency. That's how bad that front end was. So we got it in, you know, so yeah, next time, I mean, I guess we can go get prices. You know, we got K&J service right here in town. Facility over in Williamston does good work as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Got Randy's in Fowlerville.
Randy's, yeah, we use Randy's already. You know, I had to get emergency tires on the bucket truck.
So that was my next question. That was an emergency.
Oh yeah, I did one out, and when we took it off, discovered a bolt on one of the inside duals that
Okay,
only
so-
had about 8 pounds of air in it.
There was a blowout.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that truck's getting ready to be inspected, and tires are part of the inspection on it.
And that was just the 4 drive tires?
Fronts are good, the fronts, and I have a set of fronts in the shop for us still.
How much were the tires?
They're like $1,700. They're
I see
19
that.
They're 19.5-inch tires. They're a commercial tire.
Oh, they are 19 and a half?
Yes.
Okay, I thought the bucket truck was not a 19 and a half.
No, those are 19.5s, so
That
they're
makes more sense then.
commercial heavy-duty tire on that.
Yep.
And
Okay. Those were all the questions that I had. Any further discussion or roll call on consent agenda? Okay, roll call please.
Zorn,
Yes.
Stanfield,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, on to reports. First up is Deputy Hagman with the police report.
Good evening. All right, we started off with a bang, sort of, and then it was pretty slow the rest of the month, but, Deputy Allen responded to Dollar General with a ticket of domestic assault, which ended up turning into charges for, a domestic as well as, imprisonment. This guy was in prison. Kept his girlfriend in the house against her will. Anyways, the next week after charges were issued, our SRT group, along with me, other detectives, all responded there. Went in the house to see if he was there, tried to get him out of the restaurants, but he was not there. While in there, we did find evidence of imprisonment, how this guy was doing that. So we did end up finding him. Took him to court, and he was released, but is cooperative with the court. So that was the big deal at the beginning of the month. Other than that, we've been able to, with the nicer weather and some public events going on with the schools, we've been able to get in there, and Deputy Allen's been able to, be in the evening shift, be able to go to some of the evening sporting events where I'm not able to. And I've been able to get on the bike a little bit more and attend some of the mid shift stuff. So that's been pretty nice, having him be able to attend that stuff. Let's see. We, 5 total incidents this, where we took a report, we made 3 arrests, 27 traffic stops, 12 citations issued. Weberville extra time, so we got quite a few more hours because we added in our extra time with, when we, did the search warrant on the guy's house, so we had a lot of our people, SLT, we had, I think, 3 different people, detectives, the captain was out here, so we added all that in as folks for extra time. The 3 arrests were warrant arrests, dealt with a suspicious situation, the threats, and 2 mental health issues. But that's about it for activity for us. Any questions or anything?
It's really nice seeing you out on the bike.
Yeah, Debbie Allen goes, I think, next month to his class, so he'll be floating around here on that soon. And, yeah, we're excited he's excited to get out and about on that thing.
I met him, he's very nice.
Yep, he enjoys working out here and being part of the community, so he's getting involved and engaged as much as he can, so you guys will be seeing him out and about. As always, if anyone wants to do ride-alongs, we have the forms up here with Jessica. Always welcome to fill them out, I'll take care of those. She'll get them to me and I'll get those taken care of at the time with you guys. Yes, sir.
Was that you or, was it Deputy Allen sitting on Pine and Howard Street a couple of Sundays ago?
It's me.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I had another citizen who lives around the corner there mentioned something to me too. I don't remember what his name is, but he's got young kids or grandkids or something.
Right.
But, yep, whenever I work Sundays, I'll try to get down there, sit down there.
That's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? No? All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I gotta get taken off, but you guys have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Everyone have a night.
Okay, DBW report.
Well, let's see, lagoons, we're still in the spring discharge period, that ends this month. Might do one small one, I haven't decided yet, I'm gonna watch my numbers the end of this week, see where my dissolved oxygen and pH levels are at. Don't have to do it, got plenty of room until the fall, but I would like to get number 3 pulled down a little bit further. Mystics, still rolling in. More drilling has commenced along the south side of Grand River. They're gonna go from Gramer Road all the way to 52. So we already have all of that marked. Looks like they started drilling today. It's for, I think, 123.net, I do believe. But they're just coming down the south side of Grand River. They're not gonna cross Grand River, not coming up into neighborhoods for anything. I think they are running the line to the fire station though. But I'm not sure if that's part of this project or not. As always, homeowners, anybody listening, please put a Mystig in for any little thing you're doing in your yard. It's a lot cheaper than hitting fiber optic or gas line. Mystigs are free. Compliance sampling, everything looks great. No issues there. Vehicle maintenance, we kind of touched on in the AP section. You know, the trucks are old, we're doing everything we can to keep them on the road. Brush pickup has started officially this month. Just note, I'm asking the residents to please glance at the brush guidelines that go out in the newsletters. It really helps with our job. Mowing has started, seems to be growing faster than we can mow it. We sent out, I don't know, 6 or 8 nuisance letters, last week.
Yeah.
See a lot of them have gotten mowed. I was gonna touch base with Jessica later this week to see where we're at, if we have to start mowing any of them. Lead and copper compliance work, that's been ongoing. Right now, we're in a holding pattern. Eagle is supposed to be touching base with us at some point this week to discuss our grant. I have received 2 quotes from contractors. I'm not gonna bother bringing that up right now until we know more about our grant. But they are in the ballpark that I was kind of guesstimating at. Street signs, we kind of been going around town trying to straighten them. Any of them that are crooked, you know, please call. It's real simple for us to pull them out, put them back in a straight manner. We did put up the Lloyd's Drive sign yesterday. That was discussed about in the last meeting, so that is done. We put a dead end on Oak Street, tried to keep people out. Other than that, that's about all I got right now. I think Bruce and I are expecting to talk to Eagle later this week, and then we'll council into the next meeting regarding that. But doing the best we can with what we have right now. So, that's all I got.
Any questions for Ryan? All right. Clerk treasurer report, Jessica,
What's it for? 30?
take your time.
Okay. My hand keeps cramping. Alright, so the application I filled out for the disaster from last year, I didn't have any updates when I wrote this, but I did get one from them shortly after I did. And pretty much you can read it over, but it doesn't sound like they have any money in the Michigan Disaster Emergency Contingency Fund, so there's a chance we're not gonna get reimbursed for everything from that tornado last year. Unless they can figure something else out, but at this time, they're gonna hold on to everybody's applications. If for some unknown reason they actually get some money into the account, then they'll pass it out, but they're still waiting on the disaster that happened up in the UP and Holton when they got flooded. So, that's that one. The DDA's budget is now in the system, and now we're printed off just like we do for the village. Filing always gonna be a thing. Building online, I mentioned to Josh, in fact, we're gonna work on making the building permits fillable, so that it's easier for them to do it online since we switched to online for the building portion. The personal property taxes, I called the circuit court to find out if we have a date yet, so that I can get those delinquent personal property taxes removed, but, for some reason people can't seem to find it, so, Scott, I got hold of you on that one.
Okay.
Elevator, working on with Josh to get a phone in there still. I think we're getting closer than what we were.
Yeah, I sent her pictures. I mean, take some more because they need different angles.
Okay. And then class from the MMTA, finished the second year, have one more to go. One of the biggest takeaways was the importance of investment, the importance of investment policies. And we need to have, as well as good investment strategies to increase our yield, so. Just a building from last meeting. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jessica. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, so we will move on to the WDDA report. Josh Rocky.
The only thing, so still working on the Ford building. The architect did all of his measuring and pictures and all that stuff, so hopefully in that, I'm working on 2 grants right now for that. And then the business park sign, Ryan helped get someone to contact to fix that, because that was crumbling, the top plate was completely gone. Yeah, that's all I have at this point.
Are we on hold with the parking lot next to the library still?
Yeah, because the parking lot, it's actually just got something, Bruce got it too, I think him and Greg. Yeah, I think it's gonna be, it's like $448,000 for the drain work that needs to be done on that south side of Grand River to appease it. So obviously right now, we don't really have the money for it, and neither does the village, so we're probably gonna have to figure out a game plan to address that when Grand River needs to be replaced, because that's the big part of the cost is replacing the road as they rip it up. So
So at this point, is it more or less undevelopable land? Is there any other use for it besides the parking lot we all wanted?
I think we're gonna look into the possibility of putting a aggregate down that's permeable for the temporary. I was gonna actually talk to Bruce about that, because I think that's gonna be the best thing, is kind of make a temporary parking lot until we can do something with it.
Okay.
So, because, I mean, obviously to make it look a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't have all the history on that site, but is it considered a 201 site? Is there a due care plan associated with it? Well, there was some environmental stuff and some funding that was going on with
Yeah,
respect
it's-
to that?
I'll have to get back to you on that, cause, and I can actually start CCing you in on the Tri-Terra stuff. I know Alan was, because they do have, right now they have the wells in place just to do testing. But they were confident they were gonna be able to remove the wells. But I don't know if that's gonna, they originally agreed with us capping it. And so I obviously have to bring them in on that and see if they will allow a permanent surface. I mean, it's already there. I mean, it's either we put rocks over it and make it a temporary parking lot, or it just remains how it looks here on out. When I did that grant, we got $1 million grant. I tried to see if Tri-Terra could ask Eagle if we could use Eagle in underground storage tank, if we could actually use that, because we only used $400,000 of it. We'd use the remaining for the drain, and they said there's no way to make that work.
Tri-Terra said that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they said they wouldn't even entertain it. But, I mean, I was trying to
Because it would
advocate.
go to kind of, putting an impermeable cap over a contaminated area, so you'd think that it would be in the public interest to do that.
I kind of thought the same thing,
Yeah.
so, I mean, maybe we need to, I'll bring you in on that, because maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, because maybe you can help address it a little bit on that standpoint. I mean, Tri-Terra might not have the correct way to approach that maybe from
Yeah.
that perspective would work.
I mean, it might be worth the ask just to hear no,
Yeah.
rather than just not asking about it.
Yeah, because I asked them to ask them, and they said they're just gonna deny it, and I then said, well, can you try?
Yeah.
They said, well, they sent me over to a different person, and that person replied, like, yeah, they're just gonna deny it. But I agree, because if you're trying to stop the contamination going into groundwater by putting on permanent surface, a cap on it would stop that from mitigating into the soil,
Yeah,
and even driving it further down.
they might know of some kind of rule that says you can't use the money to do anything off-site or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll bring you up on that, and then I'll send the contact with Tri-Terra and see if we can approach it again, because I mean, like I said, it doesn't hurt to ask. And I mean, if we could possibly use that, it'd be a huge improvement.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's undevelopable so much as somebody has to pay that $400,000+.
Right.
If that's not, hypothetically, that could be paid by somebody who wanted to build something there that would generate enough revenue, but that's not on the table right now.
Right, that's an important distinction, it's a good point.
It's an impediment to anything happening.
Sure, it's a very tall hurdle. I mean, obviously, the plan has been, and we'd all like to see a parking lot there, but I guess something I'll throw out there is, if it's a matter of you can't put a cap down, could it at least be landscaped and perhaps some sort of signage, kind of like a welcome to the Weberville downtown, since that's kind of the start of the TIF district. At least make it look nice.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why we're trying to figure out what we can do and kind of go through all of our avenues, and then, like I said, if we have to, and landscaping is part of the deal that we do, so we're gonna probably work with PA group to figure out, hey, if we have to do a temporary thing here, what can we do to that we're not throwing money away.
Right.
That where, once we do the parking lot, once we get to that point where we can readdress this in a couple of years, we're not wasting money of all the money we're putting into it. We can probably keep a lot of the same stuff in place, would be what I prefer. Because I don't really want to waste a bunch of money on a temporary parking lot just to rip it all back up and start over again.
Right. Okay. Anything else from or for the DDA? Okay. Building and zoning report? Chris, do you have anything to add beyond what's?
Not beyond what's in the packet. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on building and zoning?
Well, I do have a quick note, and that is that we are targeting the next meeting, the meeting on the 28th, for a site plan approval for the truck wash over at Manos.
Oh.
So that will be coming in front of you guys.
Perfect. Thank you. NISA report.
Actually, Lana will take that because I was not at the meeting this month.
Right.
So this one, it's under. So I really enjoyed it. I actually learned some things. I'm all about learning. I was really impressed because they actually have their personnel and training manual. It's all online. And it was very informative. I just loved it. Any of their employees and anything, any of the training they have to do, it's right there. They just log in, anything they have to do, it's right there. I just think it's a great thing to add. The other thing that they just approved, they had a UTV, and they did that for three meetings. They were trying to get bids. As we all know, getting bids right now is very difficult. But this past meeting, they actually were able to get it to pass. And I think it's a really great thing because, as we all know, in today's society, we have the elderly, got dementia, Alzheimer's, they wander off, they get into areas that vehicles can't get. Got kids that are wandering off into areas also that vehicles can't get. This will allow them to get back into those areas, heaven forbid it's ever needed, but now they'll have it. So I really learned a lot. They talked about how prices are going up on everything, ambulances, fire trucks, police cars, and, they're gonna have to look at those things too, so. Other than that, I can't really think of anything that they talked about, but just really wanted to point out those things because I was really impressed by it.
Awesome. Any questions for Lana on the NISA report?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
for
you.
letting me go.
Attorney reports, Mr. Scott Gould.
Village of Weberville versus White Rose, we are post-appeal. No opinion has been rendered at this moment, so we're still waiting on that. There was a 30-day timeline which the court gave itself, so we should be seeing it, I think we'll have an opinion by the next council meeting. Eagle, last council meeting, I informed council that I reached out to Laura with Eagle looking for an update. She did call me back. In fact, she called me back today. And she informed me that Eagle has moved our particular case for events that happened back in February to what they call an escalated enforcement. And that the village and myself should expect some correspondence in the near future regarding an escalated enforcement action. That's about all she could give me. As she explained that sounds like it's another department that works on that matter. So we'll stay tuned on that. The last meeting, there was also quite a bit of discussion as to Black Oak Street and whether or not the village of Weberville controls that property, that ground which the street is demarcated at. Everything that I reviewed, there's nothing that I know of in the village records of which the village formally accepted responsibility of that street. However, there's a few other pieces in play. There was a plat. The village did sign off on that plat July 11th, 2005. Subsequent to that plat approval, it was recorded on August 8th, 2005. Generally speaking, the sequence of events, whenever you have a plat where you have a public street dedicated, local municipality approves a plat, pretty much saying, we agree, we're okay with what you're suggesting, Mr. Developer, and then usually upon the completion of the development, or at least some level of build out, the municipality will subsequently put together a resolution or ordinance accepting the street officially, formally. It doesn't look like that happened here. However, there is a state law on point that says that 10 years after a plat has been recorded, it is to be presumed that the local municipality, which has jurisdiction around that street, accepts responsibility. So that being said, that would take us to 2015. From that point forward, it's technically the village's end right now. If the village was inclined to push back and say, no, we have not accepted that, we want to challenge that presumption, you can, that's also provided in the law. The grounds of which the village could say, no, we did not accept this street, are some of the facts that we have at hand. Most notably, the fact that we have not maintained that street, we have not snow plowed that street. So there wasn't even like actions of which would even suggest an implied acceptance by the village. Probably at this point, the more financially savvy way to go about it is to go ahead and accept the street under the presumption that it is our street, given that the 10 years has elapsed between the recording of the plat and today. So that's a quick rundown on the Black Oak Street for me. Did get a call into Eagle, left a voicemail. This is to the lead and copper. This goes back to the last council meeting as well. Mr. Jones, informed the council that we have a mountain of work ahead of us in regard to lead service line replacement, or at least finding out what we have. Verification. Yep. Part of my voicemail to Eagle was only, I'm looking for an escape route, so to say. And I know, Mr. Jones, you mentioned there is no way around this, and I agree. I highly doubt that Eagle is going to provide me with anything that says, don't worry about it, get to it when you can. I think they are steadfast on keeping everyone motivated for the October deadline. I'm still going to prepare for, if it really becomes ugly, how do we mitigate the damages if there is any?
What I'm being led to believe from Eagle, actually there was an email in the packet here where I had asked that question. And it sounds like they're fully anticipating, multiple communities across the state of Michigan not being in compliance, for whatever reason. So basically it sounds like punishment is going to be based on what progress you've made. If you haven't done anything, they're gonna drop the hammer on you. If you're putting forth an effort, and you're close and you're trying, who knows what's gonna happen. But as you know, dealing with Eagle, you don't get an answer,
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
right
I
now,
agree, and I think your assessment's spot on. They're gonna look over a period of time of when the village became aware of their obligations and when they engaged these processes, and we are gonna have to be prepared. If there's not a formal avenue to ask for a delay, we're gonna have to be prepared to summarize our timeline. And I'm okay with it.
right.
I wish it was better, but it is what it is. But
Like I said in my report, I've received 2 of my quotes already. I'm looking for 3 quotes. Both companies have told me that once they start, they will have 3 weeks and we will have all of our holes dug.
wow,
Yeah.
that's even better.
But now they have both companies that I've been in contact with, they're doing this for other communities right now, so this is nothing new to them.
Okay.
One of them being a local company here in town, he says, we'll knock them out. It's basically just going to be manpower on the village side and collecting all the data, and then myself getting the data into the Eagle website the way they have to have it.
Okay.
So, after receiving my first quote and having contact with a contractor, I was feeling a lot better about it, knowing that, once we say this is the route we're going, and then we get the word go, I think we're gonna be okay. It's just gonna be on my shoulders, a lot of work. But
So how will that work? Because this is prior to your work and joining the village, but when we had to have all the water meters replaced, that was a Herculean effort just to get property owner permission to do that. Now granted, work's not being performed, but I mean, how is that even gonna be reasonable if, great, we could find contractors who can mobilize and complete the work in that time frame, but how are we gonna get permission to inspect the water meter head again and go on private property?
I kind of discussed that last meeting. One will lean on our water code, because when a water customer signs up for water, it is stated that we have to have access to that meter. I can't remember the exact wording on it, I'd have to check the form. So we do have, you know, a little bit there. Now luckily, I'm only going to check 100 addresses. 88, I think, was our number, but I'm gonna do 100, just, you know, to cover us in case we get down to the bare end and we're short. So the 100 customers that I've already chosen, we're gonna contact with a letter. Eagle recommended having an access agreement. That way, if there's denial of access, I can show Eagle, hey, we've put forth this effort, this effort, and this effort to get in, and they're still denying us. Then that's where we fall back onto our code, discussing our water meters. So we actually, we do have ground to stand on, and it literally, we walk in, we take a picture of the water line coming through the wall, and we get right back out. It has nothing to do with the water meter. I gotta see that line where, you know, where it comes into the premises, so there's ways of doing it. I have an access agreement, kind of a rough draft right now. So, you know, we just have to document our efforts. And then, you know, if it comes down to it, then we pick somebody else. You know, I mean, I have 50 more addresses, you know, in my Excel spreadsheet, that I was gonna use as backup, contingency, whatever, so, you know.
And to that point, if there is a resident that is defiant and will not allow us access based on our needs because of our ordinance, which spells out that anyone that's receiving municipal water has to allow for inspection, has to abide by our rules. If we do run into someone that's defiant in that fashion, I would start a show cause action whereby give them a summons and a complaint, and we run over to the court and they have to explain to the judge why they are not abiding by the ordinance.
Is there any time frame associated with that? Like I know with, you know, landlord agreements, usually 24-hour notice before entering the apartment.
I think it's 24. I can't remember the exact wording of it.
Okay.
Or is it just like reasonable time or something like that? It's
Right.
not, you know, I show up at your door and say, hey, let me in,
Right.
you know, but.
Well, I guess where I was going with that is I see the likelihood if the scope of the work is projected to take place over 2 or 3 weeks, is you pick a resident and that resident say, yeah, you can have access, but that 2 weeks that you're doing work is not convenient. And it
The
won't
inside
happen.
part I can do at any time. So
Okay.
once we are going to take on this project, and I contact, you know, my first initial 100 people, I can go there anytime. All I have to do is have a picture, you know. The outside work can take place whether they're home or not, does not matter. But the inside part, I can go in there whenever they're, you know, whenever it's convenient. I would do just like I did with the meter program. If somebody's not home till 7:30 at night, I come back at 7:30 at night. You know, if somebody leaves for work at 5 a.m., I stop over at 4:45 in the morning, you know. There's ways of doing it. Work with them, you know, and nothing has to be done inside the house other than just a quick picture, so.
Right.
The inside part, I'm not worried about, it's the outside part that's hard,
Yeah.
because we're dealing with underground, so. But I think we're on the right path, and, you know, I appreciate Scott reaching out to Eagle, but.
Now, would it at all make sense or are you planning on stockpiling equipment or resources, assuming that going underground, there's gonna be a certain number of line breakages that need to be repaired?
I've already put one excavator on notice, and he said, as always, he would be here within 1 hour. I have parts on hand already, for a majority of everything we have underground. You know, that was kind of something I started months ago, kind of just nonchalantly, you know, order 6 fittings here or whatever.
Last thing I'd wanna see is try to get all this done in 3 weeks. You pop 24 water lines, all of a sudden we don't have
Nope.
clamps and Band-Aids to fix it.
No, I've got everything on hand right now.
Okay.
Actually, last AP, there was a tool purchase that I made, because I knew we didn't have a 1-inch copper rounder. We had a 3/4 inch, but not a 1-inch. Gotta be able to make that copper round again in order to fix it, so, you know,
Right.
I've kind of already been planning this, just because I did this in my last municipality, so I know what to expect.
Okay.
Right, if I remember correctly, you said that one employee would need to be taking the pictures, correct?
Yes.
Do we have, is there a concern there?
Well, he's just short.
There is, and that's where we're waiting on Eagle's answer on the wastewater side
Mhm.
to determine how our next steps are taken.
Right.
I know PEA Group is available, I mean, it's gonna cost us a pretty penny, to supply an inspector. But, you know, basically, at the end of the day, we have to have somebody that I can look at and say, yeah, I trust your word, because it can't be me out there on every single one of them, and it's my license that all this is being submitted under as the operator in charge, so.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a village employee, it could be a contractor.
If it's gonna be a contractor, it has to be somebody like PEA Group, where they're licensed, insured, bonded, the whole 9 yards, and then I have to be comfortable with it, you know, because all this is being posted to Eagle under my name. So discussions have kind of roughly started, that's why we're trying to get the ball rolling with our wastewater, situation, to determine if we're gonna replace, you know, are we gonna bring another employee on board, where are we going? So it's all kind of intertwined right now.
Yeah, I think at this point, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, no, so I apologize, this is still your section.
Oh, hey,
We've kind of derailed here, but, you know, it's probably better to operate under the assumption that that will not be settled before this project needs to be completed.
We're kind of operating on that right now.
So I would say, whether it be PEA Group or some, we should be looking for other contractors that, you know, basically as temporary employment, you know, for 3 weeks of this project, can get that done for us.
We're gonna cross that bridge when we come to it, so we're working on it.
I have a question. Scott, so I know things are up in the air. This isn't for anybody at all, but right now with things being up in the air, we have some money budgeted. Can we not just, like, with our employee handbook? I don't really want to look at a temporary seasonal employee, but we could, with Michigan being an at-will state, can we not bring somebody in?
You can hire someone whenever you so choose. Yeah, I guess whatever position you want to put them in. I mean, I know that there's some question as to who's taking on what role, but, you can hire people.
I mean, I love the fact that you guys are willing to help us. I just look at the budget, I look at the money.
And I guess what's the concern there?
Well, if we can bring somebody in and put them on our payroll, that would save money.
No, it wouldn't. That'd be substantially more expensive between payroll and benefits.
We left it in the budget, Caitlin did, so.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is my opinion on that matter is, you know, historically, the village DPW has always operated with 2 people. When we went to 3, that was a bit of a change, but it worked. And the only reason why we ever budgeted for 4 employees was with the idea that we needed to hire a replacement for Shane, or if something were to happen to him, or when he was prepared to retire. And that's why we hired Ryan in that position. And I think long-term for the village to carry 4 employees in the DPW is not only financially a burden, but frankly excessive for the scope of work that a 1 square mile town does. You know, if we're truly busy this summer and need a seasonal employee to help with, you know, lawn mowing and tall grass, I mean, the other thing that I question with, you know, having help documenting the lead and copper lines, we have 2 other DPW employees. Why can't they do it?
They're doing their daily tasks already. And this is gonna be a conversation that I feel we'll have probably next meeting after that. You know, I mean, I think we're still in Scott's report right now, so I think we'll wait and have that discussion, that's just my opinion.
Okay, in fairness to Scott, I agree with you. I would say, Scott, is there anything else?
That concludes my report for this morning, just for the reports, yeah.
Any questions for Scott? Seeing none. Advocate report, or I'm sorry, engineering reports, I didn't mean to skip you, Bruce.
Okay. All right, so we finally got our approval from MDOT on the business park paving project to go ahead and contract with the low bidder, Reith Riley. So later on in the agenda, there's a resolution essentially awarding that contract to Reith Riley. And if that then passes, then I'll need to follow up. I've got a document in the project manual called the notice of award that I'll need to get signed by somebody at the village. I don't know if you can do that, Jessica, if there's a positive resolution tonight.
But, yeah,
I meant to bring it with me, but I left it at the office. So there's that. So that's good news, and we'll move forward with that. And then I'll pick up and have some conversations with Reith Riley. There's a number of things that they need to provide in terms of insurance requirements and bonding and that kind of thing. And then we talked, Mr. Gould talked about Black Oak Street, and we talked about it a little bit at the last council meeting. And I just looked into it. I went out there and walked it, and as most of you probably know, looks like they put the leveling course down, and they left off about 1.5 inches of surface course, which a lot of times developers will do that thinking that they're gonna wait until most of the homes are built and the construction traffic has been reduced, and then go back in and put a nice top course on it. That obviously didn't happen in this case. I'm guessing because the original developer had some financial difficulties or what have you. But, you know, that road's been sitting like that for 20 years, and there's some distress in the pavement because the drainage can't get over that 1.5 inch lip on the curb, and then the water sits in the crack and goes in the crack, and so there's a few repair areas that would need to take place. The shape of the road is, you know, it's pretty cracked up, but you know, if we were to go in there and do some selective repairs in some of the worst areas and then put, you know, something like a 2-inch surface course on that, I just estimated that quickly to be about a $75,000 project for what that's worth. You know, that's just one of the road projects that we've been talking about lately. So that's where that is. I had some conversations with Jessica and Caitlin at Plant Moran, and Caitlin's concerns were around budget and the road projects that are being planned over the next couple of years. And I don't have the details of what the budgets are, but we just talked generally in terms of the second phase of the Main Street project being talked about for 2025. Her question to me was, could that project be delayed until 26 for construction without us losing the $385,000 grant that we have? And so I followed up with the grant coordinator, and I believe the answer to that question is yes. It would just, there's some certain things that need to happen before September 26th in terms of the funds being obligated, and I think we can handle that. So that is a possibility to delay that project until 26 and not lose the $385,000 grant. And we haven't done construction drawings on that second phase yet. The first phase, you know, based on what the first phase cost, you know, we're estimating ballpark, that's probably a $1.2 million construction cost. So the village's portion of that would be about $800,000. And then last time I was here, I mentioned the fact that Weberville is being reclassified as a rural area with respect to what they call a federal aid map, which is what the Highway Administration uses to approve a lot of these grant funds. And so we're being put into a different funding category called RTF, Rural Transportation Fund for rural communities, which is what our classification is going to be. And they program these grants every 4 years. So and into what they call a TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. And right now, or in the next couple of months, they're gonna start a new cycle for developing the next TIP for this RTF funding. So we need to be able to go into them. It's our opportunity to propose any number of projects that we want in order to get those funds programmed for the next 4 years. So we need to be thinking about what kind of project can we look at getting funding for. With the RTF funding and grant money, only certain types of roads are allowed to be funded in that manner, and those roads are the ones that are classified as collector or higher. And in the village, the only roads with that classification would be actually Highview Drive, Elm Street, Main Street from Grand River to Party Road, and Party from Main Street to Gramer. So, Highview Drive, we've got that figured out at this point. Elm Street is in really good condition, and I don't think is in any need of any kind of repair or, preventive maintenance project. Main Street, obviously, we've got some funding for that, and, that would leave Pardee, which in that stretch, just having driven it a couple of times, there are a couple areas on that road that are kind of breaking up. So, I would suggest we maybe consider to get Pardee Road, try to get that programmed into this next TIP cycle for the RTF funding. So since Main Street is one of those possible RTF funding sections of road, the question came from Caitlin, okay, we already have $385,000 in grant money for that. If we delay it to 2026, which is the first year of the next TIP cycle, can we stack funding with an RTF grant on top of that? And so, again, I had a little conversation with the guy that runs the RTF program for MDOT, and he was explaining that the year 2026 is sort of an overlap year, and funds have already been programmed for it. His suggestion was, yeah, go ahead and suggest that, but it's probably a low likelihood that you're gonna get additional RTF funds for that section of road. So that could be one possibility that we could put in there to try and, like I said, stack the grants on there.
And that's Rural Transportation Fund?
Yeah. And all of that, a lot of the programming for that is run through the Tri-County Planning Commission, which is the municipal planning organization for the three-county area. I've kind of dialed into getting to know some of the people over there as well. And then Ryan already mentioned that with respect to this this grant for the lead line physical inventory verification, we applied for that grant way back in January, and they had so many grants that they were having to manage that it's been until now that, as Ryan pointed out, they're saying, okay, next week we'll get to Weberville. They're probably going alphabetically, Weberville's at the end. They have a chart. So I don't know, I mean, that might be something if you're trying to explain to Eagle why it's not done, that's something that you could put on a list of, well, it took so long for us to get this grant, but anyways, the question that I wanted to ask them was, originally we had applied for that grant based on using village personnel and village equipment, and then, charging the state a certain rate for those. And now the idea has obviously changed that we're gonna contract, so my question was, can we change from, since we had to lay that all out in the grant application, can we now change into a contract situation? And the reply I got was, yes, we can look at that. You're not gonna get any more money than what you asked for in the first place. don't know what kind of bid you're getting, but, you know, that $55,000 may cover what you're looking at, so that would be good. And I believe that's all I had. Happy to answer any questions.
So, going back a little bit to Black Oak Street, and I guess I'll go backwards a little bit further. Scott, your comments about that 10-year time frame. Was the recommendation there to accept the road as is, or to pursue not accepting it?
Well, I guess it's at the pleasure of the council. The way the law is geared, it says specifically that, the language here, 10 years after the date the plat is first recorded, land dedicated to the use of the public in or upon the plat shall be presumed to have been accepted on behalf of the public by the municipality within whose boundaries the land lies. So the way the law is you're already presumed to have control of that ground.
Correct.
It does give a spot to where it says, the presumption prescribed in the first subsection shall be conclusive of an acceptance of dedication unless rebutted by competent evidence before a circuit court. So that's, if the village was just dead set, no way, we never accepted that street, we're not taking control of it. For the evidence that I would present on behalf of the village would be, look, we never snowplowed it, we never capped it, we never did anything. Now, it's an uphill battle, and I guess at some point the courts are gonna look at it, well, okay, you didn't take any affirmative action to claim that ground, but you didn't do anything to reaffirm your position that you did not claim that ground either. So I hate to put it in the middle ground, but if I had to weigh it out, I would say more likely than not, the village is in control of that street now.
We had, in 2 recent meetings now, the presumed owner speaking on record as if he still owned it.
And developers probably don't know all the nuances to road and street dedication. And this, and I've seen this with other municipalities too. You had these developments that were really coming to be right before the big crash, the Great Recession. And like in this case, it probably would have went smooth. There probably would have been a resolution or an acceptance by the village had the timeline as forecasted come to fruition. The houses get built, the road gets developed, and everyone's happy. Well, the economy crashed right in the middle of the development, and this contractor who originally probably owned the land walked over, probably went into bankruptcy or who knows what, and the whole thing just fell apart. And I've experienced that in other municipalities with that very exact factual pattern.
So how long has Tom owned those properties?
I don't know, 2015.
So probably around that 10-year mark, where would the clock then have reset?
No, it would have been, everything is geared off of the recorded date of the plat. In this case, it was August 8th of 2005.
Okay.
So everything's geared off that August 8th, 2005 number, date.
Gotcha. And at the point that we get that road into the village's system, if that's the direction you go, then we start getting Act 51 money for that, which I think is about $2,700 a year.
Right.
So I mean, it would take a lot of years to get back your 75,000 if you capped it, but it's better than nothing, I guess.
Can we get back taxes on that?
I
Back
doubt
money
it.
on that?
Well, and to some respect, for the fact that it has not been snowplowed, for the fact that it has not been maintained, and yet really anyone could travel down it to the benefit of the citizens, you kind of got a deal, I guess, if I had to look for a silver lining.
So I guess, should the council pursue formalizing an acceptance of that road, what would that avenue look like?
I would just draft up just a resolution citing out the timeline of when the village met on the original plat acceptance, the date of the recording, cite the state law, and just effectively, you guys would be affirming what the law is already forcing you to accept. To have it on record here locally, so everyone's on the same page.
Right.
Otherwise, you really don't have to do anything at this point, because it's already presumed that it's.
And MDOT would want that document in order for you to add it to your Act 51 map.
Sure. So Jessica, do you want to, can you put this on next meeting's agenda to, what?
With and
Oh, thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Gould.
Yeah.
If the village doesn't claim ownership of that road, then who owns it? Does it become a private road? The responsibility of the adjacent property owners?
Yeah, so, because we know that, I apologize, what's the gentleman's name that is the developer? Tom?
Yeah.
I forget his last name.
Gottschalk. So the reason why this is all coming to be, obviously, is Gottschalk's trying to figure out where his interest lies and what's his obligation. I know he has hired an attorney to look into this. They're waiting for me to give an answer. In fact, I'm giving my answer to the council before I'm giving it to them. But effectively, as this would play out, Gottschalk would take his attorneys and say, look, that is municipal street. We'd end up in court, and that's where we'd have to come forth with our evidence saying how we haven't taken any action. And upon the court's ruling, if the court said, no, we're gonna say it is a private street, then yes, all those things that Gottschalk has believed to be his responsibility would continue to be his responsibility, and the status of private street would then probably come into question at that point. So, we've already got, well, almost 20 years of public street, or the presumption of public street, right? So.
Yeah, and I guess something for the council to consider on that is there's current development activities going on, and as Bruce mentioned, the idea of leaving it uncapped is to wait until development is done. I think it would be probably inappropriate for the village to be spending money on a cap that would ultimately get torn up during the current development cycle. I know that doesn't fix the road. I don't know if there's any interim solutions, be it pulverizing and,
The thing is, that road's been sitting there so long with just on it.
Right.
That it's just all, right. You wait too much longer, I mean, I don't know how fast he's building houses, but it doesn't seem like he's doing more than 1 or 2 a year. At some point, that road's gonna be in tough enough condition where it's gonna be, okay, not only do we have to put a 2-inch cap on it, but we gotta take off what's there and put another leveling course on it.
Right. Okay.
And as it stands now, it's gonna be very difficult, very hard on our equipment come snowplow season, so manholes are all sticking up, they're ramped up.
Right.
You know,
That stuff's gone.
yeah,
Yeah.
so our maintenance on it is, you know, between tearing off manhole covers, manhole frames, also damaging our snowplows.
Yeah.
It's also a deterrent to people actually building houses, which is denying the village potential tax revenue.
For sure.
Just another perspective.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
That is exactly what I was saying at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So,
That 78,000 might be a good investment in the end.
No, I don't disagree. My concern is where the village is gonna come up with that.
And then sure, yeah, that's in the immediate term, right? This has to happen like now.
Right, realistically, within this paving season.
Yeah.
Which is, another 8 months-ish. So it's on the agenda for next meeting for further discussion, and I guess, Scott, is there anything that you need to prepare by next meeting for the council to?
I can put together a resolution of the acceptance.
Okay.
Yeah, on what I've already stated tonight, and then get it to the packet, and I guess if there any changes at the last minute, we can put that in the, we'll make it happen.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Perfect. It's much appreciated. We're still on engineer reports. Are there any more questions for Bruce or any further comments? Okay. Advocate reports. See, Lana, you're on here for the community picnic?
Yeah. So everything is coming along really smooth. I've got a lot of positive feedback about moving it behind the high school. everybody seems to be extremely happy. One, they talked about all the open room that we're gonna have back there. Businesses are happy. So far, the only thing left, and Josh has graciously volunteered to help me with that, is the permit for the food. So I've got sack races, I have, I also have a beanbag toss game. I'm working on face painting and hopefully getting somebody that can take balloons and make them into shapes. I have a popcorn machine, possibly, cotton candy machine, we have a bounce house. We just have a lot of kids games. I've got swimming pools if kids are gonna pluck a little duck out for the smaller kids. Another swimming pool for kids that have sensory issues, where they can put their hands in the sand and pull out of another game. There's the sack race, three-legged race. I've got a spoon where it won't be a relay, but it'd be kind of like an egg where they can do like a small obstacle course. So, also Andy Smith has just worked really great with me. We will have some access to the small concession stand. We're not cooking out of it, but we'll have access. Gonna have another pool set up where we can have the water will be kept cold, so I can pour ice over that. Blackstones for cooking. So it just seems like it's, fingers crossed, everything's gonna go smoothly. Well, nothing ever goes smoothly, but as smooth as it possibly can. I am looking for volunteers, so. And, you know, I have had some calls for vendors. And of course, the car show.
The car show. They will
And
be there.
the fire trucks are gonna be there.
Fire trucks will be there, that one, car show will be there.
So the entirety of the picnic will be on the school grounds now?
Correct.
Yes, it will be in the school, like by where the Spartan Center is.
Mhm.
And then alongside the school is where the fire trucks are gonna be. It'll allow them to go down, near where you would go like toward, the football field, turn around and face out toward Grand River, but still alongside the school. So if they get a call, they can get right out very easily. That was really important.
Have you talked to the school at all about maybe having like an open house for the Spartan Center during those times?
Actually, Andy is talking to some of the people there, the coaches. He's going to see if maybe he can get like a basketball tournament going on.
No?
Obviously, any proceeds they would have would stay in the school, which would be really great for them if they need anything for any of the teams, basketball or whatever. But also talk, you know, choir, band, if they want to bring anything out, get ready for next year. It's all about the community, and I think it's really important if the youth can be involved too.
Right, yeah, I just think the Spartan Center is a fantastic
Absolutely.
resource for the community that I think a lot of people either don't know about,
Absolutely.
or if it was made more convenient for them to see the facility and learn more,
Mhm.
you know.
And not only that, it's also allowing access to bathrooms.
Ah, excellent,
So, you know, they can only go so far, but at least it's right there.
right. Awesome, well, thank you to you and the committee for doing all the work.
You're welcome.
Okay, so on to new business. The mobile station billboard. Gentlemen, I apologize it took us this long to get here. Our reports usually don't take an hour, but tonight they did, so appreciate you hanging in there. So at this point, I would welcome a discussion from McKenna.
Yep.
And Chris, more specifically.
So, the request tonight is what's called a sign waiver, which the village council has the power to grant under section 155.083B9. Please bear with me, I'm getting my butt kicked by allergies, so I hope, as far as I can talk without descending into a coughing fit here, but, as noted by Mr. English, the highway advertising signs are permitted in the highway commercial district. They're also permitted in the industrial district. But the village's interpretation of that provision has been that while it allows more signage and allows off-premises advertising, it doesn't allow a blanket waiver to exceed size and height restrictions. So in this district, the maximum height is 25 feet. So it does allow for something kind of like the highway signs we have. But the maximum size is only 32 square feet. as noted by our applicant, they are no longer requesting to go up to 30 feet. They're happy with 25. I've even talked to them, potentially it might even go lower than that depending on how big it ends up being, but it would not exceed 25 feet. So the request is for a 200 square foot sign or something otherwise larger than 32 square feet. The proposed sign is also an electronic message sign. It would be changeable. That is permitted under our ordinance. We restrict the change not more frequently than every 6 seconds, which means you can't have video or anything like that. But we do allow those changeable message electronic signs. And one thing that we do have that came in from the applicant, and this was a late addition to your packets, is some documentation that the sign would be equipped with an automatic dimmer, which addresses one of the concerns in our letter. The dimmer would be hooked to a solar panel, which would basically read how bright it is in the ambient light around the board and reduce or increase the brightness accordingly for optimal readability. That means optimal readability means not glare, right? If it's glaring, you can't read it. So that is, in my mind, reassuring. That this would not be something that would be blindingly bright. In fact, it would regulate itself to keep it at a reasonable brightness. Your criteria for approving this. Number one, the proposed sign is not in danger of public health, safety, welfare, by being virtue of being distracting to drivers, obscuring vision, being unnecessarily bright, being designed or constructed poorly, or in any other way. Well, we have addressed the brightness issue, and that's good. It's going to be really for council to decide whether the size of the sign is going to be distracting or obscuring vision. I think that's something we need to discuss tonight. You have your Photoshop drawings of what the sign will look like, and that can help you make that decision. Number two, the sign is consistent with the character of the surrounding area. This is your high-intensity zone, right? It's right by the highway interchange. It's right by Aldi. It's right by industrial districts, McDonald's, Mobile, the marijuana store, etc. So having billboards in the area is not necessarily problematic. You have one to the north, up by Grand River Avenue. It's not electronic, but it's there already. But again, how big is too big, and how big becomes out of character with the surrounding area. Next, the sign does not block the view of other nearby signs to the extent or harm the ability of neighboring businesses to operate. What's interesting about this criteria is it actually suggests that the sign should be taller, right? Because the Mobile and McDonald's signs are relatively low to the ground. If the sign is not going to block them, it's going to be a little bit taller. Not taller than the 25 feet permitted, but not down near the ground. Next, the sign will not be nuisance to any residential uses. There really aren't any anywhere nearby, as we know. There's no residential uses nearby. Finally, a sign meeting the standards of the ordinance would not adequately serve the purpose desired by the applicant. 32 square feet is admittedly too small for off-premises advertising and a billboard. The question is, where's the line? They're suggesting 200 square feet, so somewhere between 32 and 200 maybe is the line here. In our letter, we basically said, hey, there's no reason to go over 25 feet. They agree with that. But the discussion we need to have is how big can this thing be? And frankly, whether we need to allow this at all. I think they are, based on my reading ordinance, entitled to 32 square foot sign if they want. The question is whether you guys want to allow it to go bigger than that. So I think at this point, it would be appropriate to have discussion and come to some sort of resolution.
Is the intent of this sign to attract eyeballs from the highway, or is it more for, as you're getting off the highway, advertising for the particular business that the property would be on?
Question for me?
Either of you.
Apart from this topic, from sitting here for the last hour, you guys, I don't know the gentleman in the.
I'm with the DPW.
Yeah, you need key man life insurance on that guy, because if something happens to that guy, the place isn't gonna run. Sounds like you know how to turn all the lights and the on and off. The intent is for the eyeballs on M52.
Not 96.
Not 96, no.
Okay.
No, it would be too small to be seen from there. And frankly, there's an issue with MDOT on whether you can view a sign from there or not. That goes though to the sign, or to the size of the sign. And that is at Chris and I talked about 8x16 and 8x16. I talked to the sign manufacturer, really for the traditional digital billboards, 10x20 is about the smallest you go. 8x16 is generally what you would see, maybe a monument sign if you're going into a large mall and it sits on the ground and it's 8x16 and they put some brick around it. And if we went lower than 10x20 and you try to go up in the air, it's going to just get smaller and smaller from the natural eye on M52.
I assume that NADA would be the owning entity of the sign and in control of, I guess, the advertisements and the content on the changeable display?
Oh, I'm sorry?
And NADA's or the?
No, the company, Digital One, would hire an advertising salesman. We're in the process of hiring somebody now, given that we have a board in Mount Pleasant, and we'll have one in Alma in a month, and then hopefully this one, and then, yes.
Yeah, what specifically would you be advertising, I guess?
Anything. I mean, typically it reflects the community.
Okay.
There's not that many businesses here, but downtown businesses here would advertise, probably Williamston, Lansing car dealerships, Fowlerville. I mean, we think it's a great location. We typically look on traffic counts, and that's a main thoroughfare from Perry to Williamston to Weberville, Fowlerville, that are going on and coming off from work and into home, and so that's why we like that location. But the boards are typically advertised, the people we typically advertise are the ones that are like local businesses. And now we can get some national advertiser, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Amazon, that kind of stuff also, but generally it reflects the community.
Okay.
And our sales guy would be the person who would be selling the advertising.
Chris, do we as the municipality have any authority or say in prohibiting certain advertisements or any type of content?
The short answer is no.
Okay, I assume the answer is
Yes,
that.
there's, the answer is no.
Yeah, I assume that's a free speech.
Yes,
issue?
actually, there's a US Supreme Court case about that.
Right.
There are some nuances to it, but in order to enforce the nuances, you have to have things in your ordinance you don't have right now. Let me put it this way. The nuance is that you have other districts you don't allow billboards in, but you allow billboards in this one, so the answer is no.
Right, okay.
If you, as I indicated earlier, and I don't know if Chris was here, if you want me to address the applicant's position on the five issues on the waiver, I'm happy to do that. I mean, I could do that quickly. But again, our position would be that under your ordinance, Chris has the authority. And your ordinance says that the following signs are allowed in the highway commercial district. And one is signs permitted in B1, B2, and BC district. So if you can put a sign in B1, B2, and BC district, then Chris, as the subsection A, says all signs except those otherwise noted shall require issuance of a permit by the zoning administrator, who shall review each applicant in compliance for the section. So if you can have a sign in B1, B2, and BC, Chris has the authority to issue a sign permit. The next one is the next sign that are allowed in the highway commercial district is advertising structures permitted under the Highway Act. This sign is permitted. I mean, it's clear that this sign is permitted under the Highway Act. And then the third sign that's allowed in the highway commercial district is freestanding signs. Except if it's going to satisfy that section, you got to satisfy subsection 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's where you get into the 32 square feet. So my position would be that the 32 square feet only applies to the freestanding sign. This isn't a freestanding sign. It's a billboard that falls under subsection 4B, the Highway Act. And that's where you default to the Highway Act, which says you can put a sign anywhere in a business area so long as it's not over 1,200 square feet. So, again, Chris has been really good to work with. He's been great. He's always called me back and he's been very informative. And his summary was, okay, we're here to determine how big, between 32 and 200 square feet, like I'm asking for. Our position is, under the statute, the decision is, Chris, the sign can be permitted so long as it's not over 1,200 square feet, which that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for 200 square feet.
Is this a permanent sign?
Yes. Yeah. You know, the sign would be, you know, as it relates to McDonald's signs, I think the report from McKenna said it could create some confusion with the McDonald's sign, or maybe it's harder it could be harder for traffic to find the McDonald's sign. You know, our position would be, you know, McDonald's got two. One looks like it's 60, 70 feet up. McDonald's is 350 feet away from this sign where it's going to be located. The one smaller McDonald's sign is 30 feet off of the start of the pavement on M52. I mean, it literally sits out 30 feet, and this sign is going to be at least 60 feet off of M32 or M52. So once you're coming down M52, you're going to see McDonald's on-premise sign from a long ways away because it's only 30 feet off the pavement. This sign is going to sit back 60 feet. It's going to be tucked back up relatively close to his building. It's going to be, you know, our position is there would be no visual stimulation that might take your attention away. Frankly, it's going to probably be, in my opinion, it would be better where ours is tucked, even though it's digital, where it's going to be tucked up against the building 60 feet off than even the static that's up by the gas or the railroads. I mean, if you're asking me, you know, as a lawyer, I would say, all right, you're going to put that static literally sits on the railroad tracks. So now you're driving down and you're not looking at the digital that's up where everything else is going on, his store, semis coming in and out, where you're really focusing as it is. You're going to put a static up against the railroad tracks where you might be doing like this as you got, you know, train action. But that sign there that was approved, it's not Adams, I didn't recognize the owner of it, but that sign, the static is up against the railroad tracks is 11 by 23. So that would be bigger than what we're asking for here.
Chris, do you have, I guess, a rebuttal, or do you agree with that interpretation of the ordinances?
I mean, our interpretation has been that the 32 square foot limit applies to all freestanding signs in the district. And subsection B allows additional signage, which you would normally only get one sign, and they have a mobile station sign, right? This would allow, subsection B allows this additional sign. That said, our interpretation has not been tested. It hasn't even been tested by this body. So this is purely, at this point, an administrative interpretation. I'm not sure Mr. Gould's even weighed in. So I want to let you know, this is the way we've been using the ordinance, but it's also not gone through any of the formal processes to get
On both sides of
in perimeter.
Josh, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it here. I mean, either way, I mean, it looks fine. One of the things that's not really necessarily the billboard company or even the mobile stations issue, but an issue that the village council has been dealing with for quite a while is the amount of truck traffic that is there that gets blocked right there, and then you're gonna put a big sign that's gonna further detract where there's a huge problem right now that no one seems to have any answer to solve. So safety-wise, public safety-wise, I feel like that's a key point there because we already have a public safety issue that's going on there. I mean, other than that, honestly, if I was the mobile station and I was running this business, it wouldn't be something because it actually distracts from their sign. From what it looks like on the video, they kind of cut their sign out, but it does distract. It will block part of their view. And on a business standpoint, if I knew there was a digital billboard right next to a competing gas station and I was the next town over, I would buy advertisement, but that's more of their problem. But I would advertise saying, hey, we're 20 cents cheaper than the station here, and make people go down the road. But that's, other than that, I mean, I assumed it was actually seen from the highway, so 52 makes a different thing, but like I said, that safety issue would be the only thing, and again, that's nothing to do with the billboard company or mobile, it's more of a problem that the trucking situation keeps causing, that we keep having to deal with, and unfortunately keeps hindering things.
Is there a state permit on this matter?
Yeah, we're in the process of getting an MDOT permit, yes. So, is there a permit process? Yes, we don't have a permit yet.
Okay, I just, the only reason I'm familiar with signs a little bit is because in my hometown, Wolverine sign is there, and I'm looking at the state website, and it says that MDOT has not issued new permits for signs since January 1st, 2007, is that correct?
Yeah, there is a finite number of permits. There are a finite number of what are called interim permits, and they're tradable like shares. So, and that's a good pickup, because I was on the phone today trying to buy permits. But so we have 2 interim permits for the site. So we submit them to MDOT, they come out and do a site inspection. Since I gave them our 2 interim permits, if they approve it, then those change into permanent permits.
And so sequentially, you want the endorsement of the village, so as you're going through the state to finalize this, there's no hang up locally, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one more step in the process.
Yeah, right, yeah, and that would, you guys deal with Eagle, you deal with MDOT, it's state government, right? So I would like to think that it would be a benefit if I could say I got local approval, but it's the state of Michigan. Sometimes they're just want, and they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and nothing's gonna change. So, but I would like to think it would help if I could say we have support.
Okay.
So, I have not heard from the rest of the council, but I would appreciate some additional opinions.
How big is the sign, by the railroad tracks? What's the size of that?
I think you just said.
That's 11 feet high by 23 long.
So
At least according to the
bigger than
MDOT
this
website.
Yeah, so bigger than this one,
Yeah,
but
bigger than
not
this one.
hugely bigger.
Longer and a foot taller, but.
But much closer to the ground.
Okay, and this looks
And
like it's between the
I don't
mobile
think so.
station and
That
McDonald's.
that one that's up against the railroad tracks that's at least 25 feet.
Are you referring to the one that the DDA currently has?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, that's,
Pretty high up there.
yeah, it's high.
Yeah, so your proposed would be similar size, but much closer to the ground than,
Yeah, I thought you were saying that one's much closer to the ground. I don't know,
No.
that one, I can't measure that off of Google Earth. That one looks like it's higher than 25 feet.
I would guess probably closer to 40 or 50. So it's
Yeah, I
very
don't know,
tall.
but
It's not as tall as the McDonald's sign, but it's tall.
Yeah,
Okay, so this looks like it would be between the mobile and the McDonald's.
yes.
The
And
place-
Holly owns that north lot there where the tractor trailers park overnight.
Okay,
It'd be the first parking spot, in that additional lot to the north of his property.
My concern is the trucks. We
yeah,
already have that issue with the trucks.
I agree.
That is a big concern.
We haven't even have a resolution for that yet.
No, and what are they gonna do, sit there and watch sign? I mean, it just is a concern with the trucks.
I agree.
If I may ask, are you referring to the trucks, parking on M52 overnight?
It's not the trucks and parking, it's,
Blocking the
Yeah.
traffic.
Yeah,
They're parking in the middle lane, correct?
Yep.
I'm not here at night to see it, but I've heard about it
Yeah.
frequently.
yeah.
Technically, they might be idling.
Yeah, right, not parking. So
rusty.
with my limited parking lot, we try to fill it up almost every night. I'm not here that late in the night. Deputy Chris Hagerman has mentioned it to me several times. The only thing I'm mentioning is if there's anything that you can think of that I'm able to help with that, whether it's opening up my parking lot for additional spaces, I'd be more than happy to hear any opinions on it. And then to answer your question, I guess, why would a sign being there or not being there matter, whether the trucks are doing something legally or not.
I think it's a
In my,
visibility concern.
it's a what?
I think it's a concern of visibility that, you know, when there's trucks idling in that center lane, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the concern is that if there's an additional sign there that provides another driver distraction that to an already hazardous area.
Yeah, because there's a lot of times on there that the trucks are actually both in the right lane if you're heading towards Weberville and in the turning lane, and then they'll cut through, if it's their turn, they'll cut through both lanes and block the whole highway. And there's been a couple times that, or they'll randomly have their lights off in the turning lane, and I've had that a couple times too, so it's pretty, if you ever want to stay in town a little bit late.
When do we normally pick up?
Usually about like 9 o'clock it starts, and then it gets really
Bad
wild west around like midnight.
Yeah.
11 o'clock midnight, it's, I mean, I actually even personally avoid the area because it's pretty, I mean, the stuff that's going on there is really nuts.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's 110 trucks coming in every night.
Right, they're waiting in
Yeah.
line to get into the old.
Yeah, and it's,
Yeah, that's exactly what
And,
it
and
is.
your parking lot helps, but it's
it
not big,
does help, yeah.
Right.
right?
Right, and
It's,
it's-
it's, you're filling up and then they're still out in the road. That's my sense of what's going on.
Right.
I don't know if there's a way this site can help that situation. We don't have something specific. We want the rest of the trucks to be doing, right? We want them in all these parking lot, and then
That actually, that's,
after that,
that's
how do
actually,
you drive is not a good option, we'll discuss this.
that's a valid point though, is I think, because I think the discussion that Hagerman had at one point was the fact that a lot of times the truckers don't know that your lot is an option, or they don't know what the rate is or whatever else. So maybe even ability to do, you know, it doesn't even have to literally be on the digital side of it, but maybe underneath it, saying that your lot is accessible, or, you know, I don't know how you operate that, but.
We have
you
a
know,
sign there.
Yeah.
There's a sign there.
But there's someone else maybe that they could.
Do you have a salesman in line already? Who's gonna control the advertising on it? What company's gonna be responsible for selling that?
Digital one.
Digital one?
Yeah.
So my question would be, would local businesses in Weberville get a discount on advertising on that sign versus out-of-town businesses?
We don't typically do that, but on new signs, there's a build-up time period where the advertising is a lot cheaper. I mean, it wouldn't be something that I would want to contract with, but, you know, I don't think we'd have a problem giving the salesman the discretion that, hey, if that guy wants to advertise and he wants to be up there for $450 a month, but some guy at Grand Rapids wants to be there, you know, we might charge him $50. I mean, it's not an absolute no, but I wouldn't want to contract with that.
What if we have a nonprofit event going on?
Yeah, we're open to that. Mhm. Yeah, you know, if we have, which if you see what I put there was, I think, the 5K over the Memorial
I
Day.
saw that, yes.
Yeah, so, you know, from our standpoint, when we put new boards in places, there's clearly, like any business, there's a grow-up period, right? And we don't want the board to sit blank. We don't want it to be blank, 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 his advertisement, one other person, blank, blank, blank. So if we can, you know, if we can get stuff up there, there's a period of time where if you guys came to us and said, can you put the Weberville Memorial Day 5K up there for the next 3 days, and we have 8 blanks, yeah, we'll do it. I mean, we're not Adams, we're not Out Front, we're not, you know, we're not Lamar. We're a local, small Lansing business that gets it, that, you know, we're coming in and we're saying, look, everybody starts a business to be profitable, right? So I'm not gonna lie that we don't wanna make money, but if we have open slots in its infancy, and you guys have something going on, and somebody says, hey, can we have a slot for the weekend or a week? We're gonna be reasonable. We probably would do that. Now, I wouldn't want a contract in that says, with a DDA that says, hey, we get a free slot for the first year to put anybody downtown we want, because these are some of the people we want to sell to, but we would be open to that.
if I may add something, the reason I was interested in this sign to begin with is because it is in the trucker parking lot, and I wanted to advertise to the truckers, hey, please come park in our parking lot. Our rate is fairly cheap, it's $10 for 24 hours, but if you buy something in the store, you can park for free. And a lot of them don't know that. And we have a sign up there that says that, but we can't put that many words on a sign. So there's like this fine print that says "see clerk inside." On his sign, that would be really easy to do. Where they can see, hey, you get to park here, if you buy something, it's free.
We would also be open to, for, again, a period of time, whether that's 3 months or a year or whatever, if the village is interested in us putting something up there that says, tractor trailer, don't park in the middle of M52, or something that says, guys, you gotta move, whether they do or not, you know, we're open to that. If that's something that would make you more comfortable, for a positive vote, we're open to looking at that. And again, that would be that's a 10 by 20, that's a nice size sign that those guys are seeing, that's, hitting them every 8 seconds. Don't park there. Don't park there. Don't park there.
Are those Aldi trucks that are waiting to get into the Aldi side?
Yeah.
It's not Sharp though, it's their, loads that come in from all the different distributors that they use.
And their gate's not open all night? Is that the problem?
No, it's case by case, and they give them a time span they're supposed to show up, and the problem is a lot of these truckers just show up early thinking they can get in. And because it's such a rotation, because these people are, these truckers are just getting loads, so it's like, you don't get the same people every time. So they basically get told, a time, and they just assume they can go in, and that's where a lot of the Wild West thing comes from, is a lot of times they think, oh, the gate's opening, so I can just shoot over there and get in there, and it's like, no, that's not how that works. They can only come in during their time.
Aldi's very strict and organized on site.
Yeah.
They're pushing their chaos to the public.
Yeah.
Outside.
Well, they've got trucks coming in and trucks going out.
Absolutely. All these very smart about this, too. They have more than enough space to allow the trucks to park in their lot.
But they're basically saying it's not our problem.
Yeah,
which is
they know what they're doing.
the village is obviously not happy about.
So I came
This has
through.
been discussed with it.
I came through Saturday evening or so around 11 o'clock, and they were stacked up, and they were there. But the observation I would make, that I would try to bifurcate and not tie the sign creating more of a distraction or chaos, is at that time, there's not high traffic count. It's just those tractor trailers sitting there. And during the day, when that's the advertisers, those are the eyeballs that we're looking at. When we look at the traffic count, that's between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. or so, give or take. That's when it doesn't seem like all the traffic is an issue, but those are the eyeballs that we want to get. The Aldi traffic seems to be an issue between 11 and 11 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. At that time, if the concern is, well, that's going to create more confusion, they're going to be looking at the sign. There's not going to be, I don't think there's going to be a significant traffic count with other parties other than the Aldi people from 11 till 2 or 3 or whatever they're stacking. If they were starting to stack at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m., then maybe the argument, would be a reasonable argument. But given all the concern is when there's not going to be as many cars on the road, I think that mitigates that concern.
So I think we need to kind of bring this back to the main question of the size of the sign. And generally speaking, my opinion on billboards as such is, I grew up in a community, and particularly an area that does not permit billboards or advertisements of any sort, particularly because it's a very scenic, pristine, untouched area. I personally hate billboards. I think I'm inundated enough with ads on my phone and on electronic devices. I pay enough taxes on the road that I don't think I should have to be forced with advertisements down my throat. I guess what I'm hearing is if this were a matter of an electronic sign that were owned and controlled by Weberville Service Station to help control traffic and advertise for their business, I would see less of an issue with that versus we're a small rural and, you know, let's face it, most of the advertising dollars are gonna come from large corporations, and do I really wanna see a Coke advertisement in a small farming community like Weberville? Personally, I don't.
But they will stop at the dollar store, they will go to the party store to buy said Coke.
But, I mean, he mentioned they're a business to make money, and at the end of the day, the party store wants to advertise in a slot, and some corporation with a lot of marketing dollars says, I'll pay $50 or $100 more. There's no obligation, and there's no contract obligating them to honor preference to local businesses. It's kind of just a at will and honor. And that's really ultimately my concern, is the lack of control that there would be over this. And in such a large format, you know, that's, I think 10 by 20 is pretty big.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to the sign that is down by the railroad tracks. You're talking a similarly sized sign, but less than half the height away from the ground is visually going to look a lot larger.
You know, our position, you know, my client's position and my position is the statute allows for a sign. I mean, it just does. And we're getting into whether you like signs or whether you don't like signs personally. Your ordinance allows for a billboard. It's clear. I mean, I'm a lawyer. The other counsel in my office, we've looked at this statute many times. We've been out here for 2 years. And we're Ollie is because we're the most confident that that's where a digital sign is permitted under your ordinance. I think it's really, really clear. I've said 3 times now on record that our reading of the statute, of the ordinance, and I don't know how old the ordinance is, our reading of the ordinance gives Chris the authority to issue a permit. So long as we satisfy the Michigan Highway Advertising Act, we get a permit. And as long as it's in a business district, which this is, and as long as it's not 1,200 square feet, we can put a sign there. We're going through the waiver process of whether it's safe, whether McDonald's impacts it, whether the tractor trailer stack up, whether that's safe. Our position is we're down the wrong rabbit hole. All we're here to do is submit our permit request to Chris. Chris looks at subsection 4B that says, highway commercial district, the following signs are allowed. Advertising structure is permitted under the Highway Act. Our sign is permitted under the Highway Act. So that's, our position is, I mean, to be blunt, our position is we really don't even need to be here tonight because your ordinance gives your zoning director the authority to grant a permit. It specifically says the following signs are allowed if you satisfy the Michigan Highway Advertising Act, and we do that. So our position would be, we submit the permit to Chris. Chris looks under the Highway Act, says, yep, here's your permit.
Mr. Gould, do our ordinances for the sign requirements being less than 32 square feet in any way, are we allowed to supersede that? That Highway Advertising Act, being that this is a local ordinance, I guess which would take effect?
Which control?
Yeah, what's the controlling authority? Is it our local ordinance or?
Well, it's a Highway Act, but I mean, it's 32 square feet?
The 32 square feet is in the freestanding sign section, and our position is it doesn't need to satisfy the freestanding sign because it's not a freestanding sign. It's a billboard under the Highway Act, which is subsection B. We're mixing 2 different subsections, and that's not how the statute's to be applied.
Well, in that case, I mean, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the interpretation there would be that it needs to satisfy the requirements of the zoning district and the Highway Advertisement Act, so it would have to.
It's not.
That's been our interpretation, he's challenging that. Though I would say, in order for us to say to confirm this is permitted under Highway Advertising Act, if we're going to, if we said that, okay, yeah, that stands on its own without the stuff below it about, then we would definitely need to see the MDOT permit.
Sure.
Because otherwise, we're just taking your word for it.
I disagree with you, Chris, and you could give us permission here today, and MDOT for some reason could not give us, and then it's a moot point.
Then you're not permitted under Highway
Correct,
Advertising.
correct, so, yeah, your approval tonight could be subject to MDOT approval.
And we have heard about MDOT moratoriums, which, to be honest, you probably have more experience on exactly what that means.
Yeah, it's what I explained. The moratorium means they're not issuing, in order to get a permit, you have to have an interim permit. There's a finite number. They're not issuing any more interim permits. I don't know what the number is. Let's just say there's 500. There's more than that, but there's 500 interim permits that are floating around right now. And like I said, today I got online and MDOT publishes, these are the 80 people that own 112 interim permits that have not been attached to a sign to make it a permanent permit. And we're gonna start dialing for dollars. Hey, here's a guy in the UP, he's got an interim permit, he's had it forever. You want $20,000? We'll buy that for $20,000. We'll take that interim permit and we'll attach it to the next sign we have. So the permits, we've got 2 interim permits for this sign that we've already submitted to MDOT. And if MDOT approves it, they will take those 2 interim permits and will turn them into permanent permits. But yeah, so we're a good business. We're a good business, and we're a service to local communities. And there's part of me that's like, wait, you know what? We're kind of, I'm here in a battle because of what Aldi's doing. Aldi's basically saying, screw Butterville, we're gonna do whatever we want. And we're controlling within our 4 corners, and we kind of fall out on M52, and that's your problem. Talk to MDOT about that. It's not our problem, and I'm kind of collateral damage to that. I mean, I get the impression that if we didn't have that Aldi thing, everybody probably have a different opinion. But
what are the council's thoughts on a conditional approval requiring the sign to be turned off during the Aldi chaos period? Some, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. or something like that. And I'm also interested in your reaction to that.
I mean, frankly, I see the only benefit of this sign being to help that situation. I would rather be a sign there that's only on during those hours and say, hey, there's free parking if you buy something. Don't park in the road. And then I don't have to see Coca-Cola advertisements during the day.
yeah, but that's your personal opinion. How about a guy like Josh? Or how about the guy who runs his business in Perry, who's trying to make a living? He wants to increase his revenues from 40 grand to 60 grand a year. And now all of a sudden I can go to him and I can say, hey, for $400 a month, I can get your advertisement, who nobody ever knew that you had a business in Perry, in front of 9,000 people. I mean, you don't like Coke advertisements, but the guy in Perry or the guy in Fowlerville who's just trying to make a living, he might say, you know what, that's great. This is a great service, because nobody knows that I'm running a landscaping business in Perry. But now all of a sudden I'm in front of 9,000 eyeballs every day.
Point taken.
I actually like the idea of saying, please don't park your sunlight here.
I
do
see
like
that.
that.
We're open to doing that.
And, I can understand your point of what you're saying, that they don't know if they come in and buy something, that they can park there free. So I understand that point too, because if you have a truck driver that's complaining they have to park there, but yet if they come into your store and they just buy something, they can park free. Well, how do they know that if it's not
being
posted? So
advertised,
it's helping you and it's helping them.
Very
because-
funny you mentioned that because 50% of our permit holders buy something and then come back later and pay for a permit. And we don't find out until afterwards, after seeing them repeatedly, like, hey, you actually get this for free, you didn't know that?
Yeah, and they
They
don't.
buy things, they double dip.
Yeah.
When 10 minutes ago, he just bought $20 from the restaurant. Sir, you should have gotten this for free.
Right.
And we try to spread the word as much as possible,
So I can
but
understand.
it's hard to do
So
that through word of mouth.
a sign like that is going to help you, where you're.
I think it'll help a lot of local businesses.
Exactly, so
So-
I get your point.
But who's going to pay for that? So if we're talking about signage that is suggestive, don't park in the road, who's paying for that?
Well,
Is it Weberville Service Station?
No, well, that's something that I'm saying that I'm willing to, for a period of time. If it's the first 6 months, we're willing to put up a PSA that says, don't park there. Now, somebody's gonna have to design it, we have a designer that needs to design what it's gonna say. I think they charge us $250 or something, but.
Only a 6-month solution to a long-term problem.
Well, it's better than what you got now. I'm trying to help you. Again, as I said, I kind of feel like we're collateral damage. I'm standing here saying, it's real clear to me as a lawyer and my other lawyer partner that says, you can put a sign there. Chris has the authority to do it. You can put a sign there. I'm sitting here saying, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help the local businesses, but if you got a problem out there that's Aldi, and I'm the collateral damage, but hey, I'll work with you. Whether it's 6 months or what, we're willing to be reasonable if you want us to put something up there. But I'm trying to be really, apart from saying the statute allows us to do that. And if we get a no vote, then we're gonna file suit in circuit court. Apart from that, I'm saying we're confident we can do this, and we're trying to be a good citizen here. You asked me if we could do something for the, for a nonprofit. Yeah, we'll do that. I mean, we can't do it for a year, but if you say, hey, and we don't want to get caught in doing that every week, but if you're like, hey, whatever, we have the Weberville days, and we'd really like to get up there for 7 days for nothing. Yeah, we would consider that.
Consider it, not granted. And I mean, to your words before though, you're not necessarily willing to entertain a contract, and my concern is that, yeah, out of the kindness of your heart, you would offer a 6-month introductory period to help with signage, but long term, you said it yourself, you're trying to run a business, so are you really willing to forgive or forego ad revenue for the sake of our community? And unless there was a contract binding to that, I'm not comfortable taking any.
Are you in business?
Am I?
Yeah.
No.
What do you do?
I don't feel comfortable discussing that right now.
Okay. Josh, are you in business? Yeah. All right. I don't know how to turn on my scanner at the time, right? Right. Like if you saw my office, you'd be like, he doesn't know how to turn on his printer, he doesn't know how to turn on his scanner. Microsoft messes me up once a day. I don't know what I'm doing. For the next 6 months, can I call you? Can I get an hour out of your time every week? Will you give that to me?
For money, yes.
Okay. But if you said to me, hey, you know what, Brian, though, since you're such a technical dolt, I'll give you 1 hour for the next 3 months. You know what I'm not gonna say to you? Well, I want a contract. Give me a contract, Josh. You're gonna give me 3 months free service that get me out of my Microsoft problem every day? Cool, thank you, but sign this contract says you're gonna do it, so how do I know you're not gonna call me in 2 weeks? I mean, how can I can't respond to that. I'm up here telling you, your ordinance allows for it, and I'm up here saying, we're being very, very reasonable. We're trying to be a good citizen. But ultimately, if it's a, nope, you're not gonna go there, again, I don't make threats, but we're probably gonna be in circuit court. Because that's how confident we are that your ordinance allows for it. And I'm trying to be really reasonable. I don't know, would we win? I don't know, but we both spend a lot of money.
Have a size, we get to determine the size of the board.
It's granted if it's less than 32 square feet.
Yeah. Right now, it's 32 square feet,
No question.
then we approve it. Yeah, and just for example, on the same site, at the mobile sign, we're working on a smaller electronic sign to replace one of the static signs. And just today, had to say it's gotta be 2 square feet smaller so we can get under that overall limit and we can approve it, right? This council can approve signs larger than that. That's why this is here, because this sign is bigger than that. You do have the option of saying, we're not gonna do 200, but we will do less. And then he's gonna figure out how that works from his design perspective, that's what you will have approved. It's an option. I do think that the Aldi thing is going to be a continuing conversation. We're gonna talk about it in 2 weeks when Ali's back here for his truck wash, which presumably will increase the capacity of your parking lot, hopefully.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, so then there's gonna be, it's still not gonna be enough, but I don't know. Ultimately, this is kind of why our letter says, look, this is up to council. And excuse me, you guys have to decide, is this appropriate in this location? And, you know, are we, if he's threatening to sue over interpretation of the ordinance, how willing are you guys to go to that? Or, as another option, is it to be tabled for Mr. Gould and probably myself to discuss this based on the Highway Advertising Act and see what we come up with?
Going to be my suggestion, unless somebody on the council would like to make a motion and feels comfortable voting one way or the other on this evening, but my suggestion would be to give our lawyer and our zoning enforcement officer enough time to figure out if we do in fact have the ability to say no to this, you know, based on what is being suggested. We don't have the ability to.
You said you do not have that approval yet?
No.
So basically, it's a moot point.
Well, to Chris's
At the
point,
moment.
is the council could decide to conditionally approve it based on whether or not MDOT approves it.
Right.
We could exercise that option as well.
Yeah, and if MDOT doesn't approve it, it's dead.
Right.
So, that is an option.
MDOT has they have an appeal process that we've not used. We did get in our Kalamazoo location, we got approval for the one-way southbound, didn't get approval for the northbound, which did us no good. So we worked with MDOT, took us about a month, we signed a settlement agreement, and now we're back on. So, in an instance where MDOT sends a letter and says your approval isn't granted, we have the ability to negotiate with them, which could take us a couple months to ultimately get some type of a approval, which, like I said, is what we just did in Kalamazoo. But I don't know, I don't have any basis for them saying, no, we submitted the permit to them, the permit request to them April 10th. They have 30 days under statute to either approve it or deny it. They're past that 30 days. We talked to them today, and they said that they've done 2 inspections, and yeah, they didn't meet their 30 days. So I would expect it's going to be relatively shortly that we're going to either get an okay from MDOT or a no from MDOT. And if they say no, I'll determine why they say no, and I'll see if we can negotiate something like we did in Kalamazoo. If we get a yes, then, you know, we're ready to go. I got the sign guys on that. We're ready to create a timeline.
As for the signage regarding no parking on M52, there's already been an electronic billboard out there stating no parking on M52.
Yeah.
Basically, no amount of signage is gonna stop truckers from parking out there, idling out there, whatever they wanna call it. So, you know, I just wanna throw it out there that there's already been a sign out there for that, and it did not fix the problem. We do have more trucks utilizing the industrial park. Different colors, but, you know, no amount of signage is gonna stop it, in my opinion.
Yeah, the person who doesn't know anything about it, the basic question that I would ask is why is the state police not out there issuing tickets?
Exactly.
They have. They do.
They've
And
done
then
that
different truckers
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah, they're multiple times.
It's not going bad, but
Yeah.
for this conversation right here, I don't care what side your sign is, I don't care what wording you put on, it's not gonna stop these truckers from parking on the road.
Scott,
So,
do you feel that it would be in the village's best interest to table this decision until you can render a legal opinion on the matter?
I'm fine with that. I mean, ultimately, not to jam up the party at the podium, but that ultimately, they gotta pursue their permit approval. I get what you're saying. I think I'm understanding what's going on here. Highway commercial districts, that's what we're in. The following signs are allowed. And I look at advertising structures permitted under the Highway Advertising Act. So hypothetically, if you had came here, just the academic exercise of this, if you would've came here and said, hey, I've got the state of Michigan on board, I just need you guys to green light this thing, we couldn't even say no to it at that point. Is that?
That's my position, yes.
And so we are in a little bit of a lurch because we don't have that from the state, but it makes sense on the legal side, sequentially, you would go to the local authority and say, hey, look, are you guys okay with this? If they said yes, that'd be one more piece of evidence I would take to the state and say, look, state, the local authorities, they're okay with this, green light this thing. I mean,
That's correct.
that's what I think you're doing here. If you did a vote on the contingency, because ultimately, if he shows back up with the state approval, I think you have to accept it.
Okay.
But I'm more willing, I mean, I could provide a legal opinion to firm up that by next council meeting for sure.
Okay. So back to, I think, what is, again, really the matter at hand is the size of the sign. Is that correct?
Well, that's Chris's interpretation, because Chris is reading the freestanding, which limits it to 32 feet. I'm above it. I'm the B above it that says the following signs are allowed. And that's as Scott's saying, advertising structures permitted under the Highway Act. Highway Act says you can put a sign there as long as it's not more than 1,200 square feet, which we don't want. We want 200 square feet. So, yeah, I mean, for me, the common sense would say you guys approve it subject to MDOT. If I don't get an MDOT permit, then I can't do it. But if you approve it subject to MDOT issuing 2 permits, you know, that's my position. And
So basically your position is if you come here and you get our approval, you can take our approval to MDOT and say, oh, hey, they approve it.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say, look, I got local authority, and as I said, 45 minutes ago, MDOT might be like, I don't care. But hopefully they'll be like, okay, that makes sense. The local authorities are approving it, so that's, it can't hurt. It can't hurt, so.
Given Mr. Gould's initial thoughts, right? It seems to me you also have the option of denying the waiver. Mr. English goes to MDOT, gets his permit, or doesn't, but let's say he does, goes back to the village and says, here's my proof, I'm permitted under the Highway Advertising Act, here's my MDOT permit, approve me under section 4B, understanding that I would only be able to deny that permit with the permission of Mr. Gould at that point. And if he feels that this is permitted on the Highway Advertising Act, then it would be approved. But the reason I'm pointing that out is he doesn't need your approval to go to the state.
Right.
And if you don't want to give him your sign off and he can go override you at the state, then he overrode you at the state. But you don't have to give him the ability to go to the state and say Weberville approved. I don't know, you have several options here, right?
Right.
You can approve this as requested, you can approve it as smaller or with other operational conditions, like turning it off or something like that, that are neutral to the content. You can deny it, you can table it, you can approve it subject to MDOT approval. Those are all on the table here, I think.
Well, approving it subjective upon MDOT approval,
Sounds like the way to go.
well, I think it's just a bureaucratic way to slow the process down, because if they say no, then it's a no. But if they say yes, we get overridden, so it's really just throwing a wrench into the cogs at that point.
No, because if MDOT says they're not going to approve it, it's a done deal.
Right, and I'm saying that if we approve it conditional upon them approving it, if they say yes, it happens. If they say no, it happens. So us approving it conditionally upon what MDOT
If they
says.
say, no, it doesn't happen,
Right,
Then it doesn't happen.
then it doesn't happen. Right, okay, that's not what you said. You said it happens.
if,
You did.
if we deny the request.
That's not what he meant, that's what he said.
Did I
Is that
misspeak?
how he said?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I get it.
if you approve it, subject to me getting my MDOT permits, that's the most logical way to go. It just is, because if I don't get the MDOT permit, then you didn't issue your permission because I didn't get my permit, which you're gonna issue me a permit contingent upon me getting my MDOT approval. If I don't get my MDOT approval, then I didn't meet the condition and you
Well-
didn't approve it.
Correct. But to your point, your position is that you don't even need a permit, right?
No, I need a permit. My position is Chris has the authority to issue me the permit.
And I'm only going to issue that under two circumstances. They both have to happen. One, an MDOT permit submitted to us. And two, Mr. Gould signs off on that interpretation of the ordinance rather than one I said earlier.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
So I think it's, at this point, if I'm understanding everybody right, that the gentleman needs to go apply to MDOT and we sit tight for that.
Yeah.
And I'll put an opinion together and when they come back with MDOT, if it's in the affirmative, that they can have the sign, then I've got to work with Chris to figure out, make sure we're covered on our end.
Yeah,
For ordinance application.
I really don't think there's any further action that we can take on this tonight.
Agreeable.
So are you saying that it's not gonna be, we're gonna issue a permit contingent upon MDOT, but you're tabling, is that what you're saying, Scott?
I believe so, yes, this matter is tabled until I can put an opinion together. Maybe in the meantime, you get the MDOT, and this will come together at the same time, hopefully.
Okay.
I think,
Because right now, it sounds like Mr. Corey and I have a difference.
yeah, potentially we need to discuss. I think that it would be understood, or it should be understood, that this may not end up coming back to council if the ultimate determination of the village attorney is that this could be approved administratively.
Right,
Then even if it's tabled, it just may never come back to, or be voided, it's not coming back to council.
exactly.
Because a different approval is what's necessary. Then what our initial approval upon receiving the zoning application, or our initial interpretation upon receiving the zoning application, which was that this was not approvable and had to come to council under section 9, right? If we determine that that was not the correct interpretation according to the village attorney, then we'll proceed with that interpretation.
And I apologize, Mr. I didn't realize that this was gonna be the type of subject that it turned into being, so
In our initial discussions, it was not clear to me this was permitted under the Highway Advertising Act. Honestly, it wasn't until the last couple of days that you even kind of brought that, like, no, I think this is clear, whereas previously it had been, well, we don't really know if this is approved under the Highway Advertising Act. Now we've suddenly got that, I mean, certainly, I haven't had a chance to really look into the Highway Advertising Act to see if I agree with your interpretation, Mr. Gould does not, so maybe that's just where we're at.
Okay. Is there any further discussion that needs to be on this topic? Okay,
So if I get the permit, then I'm gonna come to Chris, I'm gonna say, hey, Chris, I have the permit, I think you have the authority to issue it. You're gonna then talk to Scott, or Scott's gonna give you an opinion, and if Scott says that's the correct interpretation, then you have the authority to issue the permit. If you say that's not the correct interpretation, we might have to come back here and vote, or take a vote under subsection C, which is a freestanding sign on whether it can be larger than 32 square feet.
Yes, if council's.
yeah, I agree with that.
Agreed.
And I don't know how long that permitting process takes with MDOT, but I would hope that by our next meeting in 2 weeks, we'll have an answer internally.
Yeah, we submitted a permit on April 10th. They have 30 days to issue it or deny it. They're past that. We talked to them today
Okay.
and they said, we're still working on it.
Okay,
So I hope it's not gonna go past 30 days much.
gotcha. Okay, well, thank you for coming this evening.
Yes,
Thank you for the
your
discussion.
time. Sorry it's so late, guys.
Moving on to the industrial park contract approval for Reese Riley, resolution number 2024-13. Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, all you need is council approval of the resolution, correct?
Right, that's all I need tonight, and then I'm gonna have to bring the award, document out of the project manual for somebody to sign, and I don't know if that's something that, you would be able to sign if we could get together sometime in the next couple days, or if Jessica could sign it, or if Brad's out of town, or what's going on there.
I can that for you, and then, if you haven't, because I'll be gone the next 2 days for bereavement leave, my grandpa passed away.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I'm sorry.
So if you're in the area, or if I'm anywhere near you, we can plan it, and I'll just stop and sign.
Okay.
Get it done and over.
Yeah, just let me know what your availability is, and we'll work it out.
Yeah, and I believe Brad is around.
Yeah.
He's around, he's just driving.
Right, it's not like he's out of state or anything.
Okay, all right.
As far as I know. So I would recommend to the council that we approve resolution number 2024-13 to award construction contract to the Weberville Business Paving Park.
Second?
Roll call?
Schoenberg,
Yes.
Stanfield,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes. Okay, number 3 on this new business is the lead and copper line for Eagle. Is there any more discussion?
Discussed it, yeah.
Okay. I did have one quick question, which I saw in the response from Katie, is that it says, if your water supply is having difficulty, we would like to know as early and explore how we can be of assistance. Have you reached out to her, or do you have any inclination as to what type of assistance they may be able to offer?
Eagle themselves will offer no assistance. That is not the purpose of their organization.
Right.
They've given me lots of advice and,
Thank you, Bob.
Good night.
Thanks, Chris.
Feel better. And that's where, we discussed, what happens if the deadline comes and goes and we're not in compliance, stuff like that.
Okay,
So, I mean,
so no.
I'm in constant communication with Eagle on a daily basis, on the wastewater side and on the drinking water side. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing new on the lead and copper stuff until Bruce and I get with Eagle's grant department. They're still saying they're gonna contact us by the end of the week. So,
Okay. It's good enough for me.
Yep.
Number 4, DPW safety and PPE requirement policy approval. Is this being suggested to be added to the employee handbook, or is a separate document?
Our employee handbook has nothing regarding safety and PPE requirements.
Yes, it does.
Not to this depth, following OSHA standards. And that's gonna be a huge problem if something happens to any employee.
We are governed by MyOSHA.
That last meeting, I printed off directly from MyOSHA's website, the standards that cover all of this information, so that's why it was put in. This is nothing that I dreamed up, this is just stuff that I took from other communities, and put together into a document to fit us. Thank you, Bruce, we'll talk later as well.
Yep, sure.
Thank you, Bruce.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
travels.
So that's where all this stems from, because right now we are having some difficulties with employees in following rules, so to have something actually in writing, it was something that Brad and I had discussed, and so that's why this was put together and then carried forward to this meeting, so.
So, I don't disagree that section 3.15 in the employee handbook could use improvement in the language. I think it would be more appropriate to reference MyOSHA guidelines in the handbook, that employees are to follow all current MyOSHA guidelines as required by their job duties, rather than creating you know, I don't anticipate any of what is here to go out of date, but MIOSHA constantly changes, right? So as long as the language is in the handbook such that, you know, it references material that, you know, is available to our employees, and as long as they're trained on it, I don't see why that's insufficient.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe you have to follow OSHA guidelines too.
OSHA sets the guideline, and then the individual states can make them more stringent, they just can't make them less than what OSHA lays out. So that's why in the last packet, I had my OSHA standards right from my OSHA's website that touched base on all of this stuff here, like we discussed in the last meeting. Just because, like I said, we have current employees, then in the future, I mean, obviously the employees that we have aren't always gonna be here. So it was just something to make sure that this village is covered, because we can't afford to take any more compliance hits. And I mean, when it comes to safety rules, there are no second chances. Somebody gets hurt on the job, I mean, that's it, you know. So that's why it was put in. Gave the council, educated them, it's up to council to make the decision on what direction you guys want to move.
Josh, do you have a question?
Yeah, how often is the DPW actually trained for MIOSHA? Like, do you guys actually have a trainer come in or make them go to class or anything?
I've been here a year and a half and absolutely none has been done.
Okay, because I know like anytime I'm on a job site that, you know, is regulated, you have to attend training.
That is why
seminars, and you have to do a bunch of stuff that requires that.
So instead of just having in the handbook and leaving it up to the employee to figure out which OSHA guidelines they have to follow.
Right.
It's kind of why I put it in writing, because this is gonna parlay into, we have to be aerial lift truck certified. To use that bucket truck, every single employee that goes in it, no matter which height, they have to be certified. None of us are. Certifications don't go from municipality to municipality. My certification stayed at my last job. You know, so that was kind of why when Brad and I had a conversation regarding certain safety rules that aren't being followed, it was kind of mentioned, put something in writing, more so than what's in the handbook. So, like I said, I hijacked information from a whole bunch of other communities, threw together in this document. The last meeting, I had supplied the MIOSHA standard for each one of these areas, just trying to cover this village. That was my sole contention, because if, like I said, we have one workman's comp claim,
So
and that's my concern.
I would defer this aspect to Mr. Gould here, but I mean, I understand and appreciate your concern around safety. But section 315 clearly states that no employee should perform any work tasks or take any action which may endanger the employee, another employee, or the public. To that effect, I mean, if an employee is found to be negligent or in violation of the handbook as to that particular sentence, the DPW supervisor and the village president have the authority to formally provide written notice or take disciplinary action.
Right.
So I don't see why the current handbook is not sufficient.
Usually they don't go by the handbook.
Yeah.
Usually they have
He
something
spells this out
separate.
more clearly. They have to wear hard helmets, they have to wear eye protection, they have to have steel-toed boots.
Right.
For these particular things, our handbook, it does not state all that out, at where this does.
Right, but if you look at MIOSHA, and I agree, I think we should be providing our employees with better guidance and better training than we currently and historically have done. I'm not disagreeing with that whatsoever.
When, not meaning to interrupt you, but when I was running my group homes and stuff, I had to have separate for each job description detailing everything, because if I would have given something like this to one of mine, they would have kind of looked at it and went, uh-huh. I literally had to have separate, because I dealt with like Hoyer lists, you know, gate belts, things like that. I literally had to have a very detailed, due to the same thing, if the state would came in or anything. It had to be spelled out. I couldn't provide just,
A general
can't, something like
overtone,
that. It had to be detailed for.
Right, and it is, and my point is, it's spelled out in my OSHA. And as long as we are providing that training, Jessica?
Sorry, at our meetings, they preach policy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a policy for different things. It might be spelled out in OSHA, but that doesn't mean they read it or have any idea what it is. Like, we have to have like our investment policy downstairs.
Mhm.
It doesn't just protect the employee, it protects the village. So, cause like if I invested wrong for some unknown reason, that's gonna be a lot of time working my butt and then the village's butt at the same time. So it's just more protection for the employee and village.
So can I?
It's not so vague.
So am I correct, Scott? So if we had something detailed, so say, heaven forbid, somebody's to get hurt, we never want that to happen. But we had something spelled like this, and it's like you need to, like the hard hats or something like this, and they signed it. Say they weren't wearing a hard hat and they were injured because they weren't wearing the hard hat, and they trying to file the workers' comp claim, which is what they're going to do. But then we pull this out and say, you read this correctly, yes? Is this not your signature? This would help, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're ever gonna be able to, they're gonna get their workers' comp claim,
Well,
but if there's a
A lawsuit.
A lawsuit
I guess I
above
should
and
use the
beyond.
words.
I mean, my take on it, because I reviewed it, is that, and to Mr. Schulte's point, our policy manual does obligate the employee to be aware of various state laws and stuff like that. But kind of to Mr. Jones' point, some people, I mean, the law is kind of, it's tough to read sometimes. And so things like this are good. It's almost like belts and suspenders, right?
Right.
Ultimately, it is a little tricky for the average person to wade through an OSHA, even this document, the one that was provided by Mr. Jones, which is just a print off of the state. It's not easy for every person to get through this and figure out, okay, what pertains to me per se. So by having this, which is the proposal of the village of what the safety and PPE requirements, to supplement what we already have in the ordinance is a fine thing. I think it's probably a good thing. And, I'd probably tweak this a little bit, the proposal of safety and PPE requirements. Just put a disclosure in there that something to the effect of the employee is still obligated to, that they need to be aware of state laws and stuff like that. But here's some important things. These are the day-to-day applications of things that they're gonna experience. There's talk about, I think, glasses and boots and things like that. We're really narrowing down what we perceive our laborers being in harm's way with. And we give them a synopsis of this. And to have them sign it, is further receipt that we're trying to educate them as to what they need to know. There was one other piece. Oh, for the fact that the village is rather small and the number of laborers, it's not like we're trying to move this paperwork across our whole huge department. We have a few people. I suspect that we could do it upon a new hire. We could do it annually, where we can put it on the calendar so that we're aware of, hey, yes, they've seen this before, but every January 3rd, we're gonna have them sign one more time. I mean, I don't know about modifying the policy manual, put it that way, but to supplement it, I think is well within the power of the council and probably a good thing.
Yep, and I guess to that extent, I would tend to agree. Aside from I don't have any issues with the particulars of the requirements that are being suggested. Really, my last hang up with the proposal is the last sentence. The second to last sentence, this corrective action will not expire, will remain with the employee's personnel file for the duration of the employee service with the village. Yeah, I think that, all records should be kept. But a second offense of any safety rule will result in the termination of employment for the employees. I think is honestly unjust. Being that, you could start employment with the village 6 months in, have a write-up from the supervisor for not wearing your seatbelt while backing up to hook up a trailer, never have an infraction, then 20 years later do the same thing again and you're fired.
If I made to that point, and I apologize, that was alarming to me too, as to the termination piece. What I would suggest, and I'm gonna cut to the chase on it, is that a second offense of a safety rule will include will result in discipline up to including termination.
Yes.
The reason is because
That word is just fine,
Yeah.
Like I said, I hijacked this.
No, you're fine. But in my mind, the way I've seen things unfold with HR and stuff, with my working with unions, is that to let people know that it is plausible that you could be fired for a second offense. Because when it comes to safety, the facts could be wide, like, a seatbelt violation. Technically, you didn't put a seatbelt on when you moved to get the trailer, so you're in violation.
That's why.
Well, that's not, yeah, I mean, that's really not the grounds to take
Public road,
somebody's livelihood away from them.
Right.
And the duration of time. I mean, you just make a mistake, but if somebody is clearly taking equipment, ramming something, or doing something so egregious where you're like, oh my God, I mean, you're on the brink of criminal activity. I mean, that's where I think we have to leave it open to allow us to say, look, that's too egregious, you're out of here. Or, all right, you forgot your glasses because you're in a hurry.
Well, you have to worry too with that too, is the public seeing obviously the DPW out and about, so you also gotta be careful of that. You don't want, someone walked over here and they weren't wearing a helmet and I got my camera, and then, so then you're like, okay, well, now we have to terminate them.
Well,
but I think I always like, on our manual we have in my business, there's coaching and training. If someone does do something that is, I've got my OSHA violations, then I go through training with them. It's usually after the first offense is like, hey, you need to get retrained because obviously it wasn't communicated to you, why this happened.
Well, and to that point, if another concern would be is, regardless of the infraction, we'd be bound to terminate. And that's a tough call, especially if it's something that's, somebody, like the seatbelt thing. There would be, if someone else was terminated, but someone else was not terminated because we didn't follow our own rule, then we're just in a jam because we have to terminate for every violation like that. So.
And again, if we're treating this as a supplement to the employee handbook, the employee handbook already has language and provisions for how reprimands are delivered, who can reprimand them, and a procedure for parting ways with any parties who are in violation of the handbook. So that's why I say, items 1 through 8 in terms of safety policy, I think are great. Just to add to that, my personal experience, with safety, and especially in corporate settings, is there's different levels of severity of safety violations, right? Arguably, the most safe employees are the ones who make the most mistakes, because those are all learning opportunities. And, if you can, talk to an employee and say, hey, the next time you're, breaking down cardboard, make sure you're using that safety blade pushing away from you. That's a learning opportunity. But by this, to Scott's point, is that's a write-up, you get 2 of those, we're bound to terminate. And I would much rather see a village employee have those opportunities to learn and become safer versus having a constant churn of hiring and firing because we get these rookies who don't have a lot of experience, make minor mistakes, 8 months in and they're gone. So I would recommend omission of really just the last sentence.
All right, omission of it, or you could even, we could say that 2 violations will something will be like, will,
Can cause possible termination.
that or further review. I mean, putting the person on notice, like, hey, you get 2 of these, this is serious stuff, you get 2 of these, you're gonna be looked at pretty closely. I mean, I'm not, it's whatever you guys want, I'm just saying that however you wanna fashion it, I think we can make it work, so.
Yeah. So, Ryan, is that something that you'd be comfortable rewording and bringing
And
back
that's
to
fine,
council?
yeah, I mean, that's just fine, I mean.
Ryan did the, kind of the hard part, because he's in the job and knows it, so he just has to clean it up legally to make sure it works.
And I can bring it back,
Labor laws.
run it past
whatever.
Ryan, make sure
Yeah.
we're on the same page,
Yeah.
if it's green light, go,
Yeah.
bring it back to council.
Like I said, my biggest thing is, in our industry, very rarely do we get second chances. You know, if I'm not wearing a hard hat, something hits me in the head, I don't get a second chance. Hearing protection, you're not getting a second chance. The seatbelt thing is huge because we have a lot of equipment that we operate on very uneven ground. And you fall off that lawnmower and it runs you over, you don't get to regrow an arm or a leg or finger. So that's why I put the stress of importance of these in there, like I said, from other communities. So that's why that wording was in there. However, Scott wants to clean it up, I don't care. But that's why I initially submitted it like that, because of the things we do versus what a whole lot of other people do. Our safety and risk levels and danger levels are different than other occupations. So that's why I put the severity of it in there. Like I said, just taking from other communities, because you don't get a second chance when it comes to this stuff. That's why it was there.
And it's a point well taken, and that's how I viewed it too. I mean, I could tell through the context, it was, this is how important this is. I mean, I didn't look at it any other way, I just.
So yeah, clean it up however, and we'll go from there. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, and
Like I
I
said, I
would,
was just submitting it so we have something.
I would actually reword, item number 1 to be a little bit more inclusive, which that oftentimes in safety manuals, in policy, we'll see verbiage that's such that, you know, any factory installed safety feature on a piece of equipment shall not be removed or disregarded.
Altered.
Altered, removed.
The OSHA
or-
standard on seatbelts are, if it comes with a seatbelt and it has rollover protection, they have to wear it at all times.
Right,
That's the OSHA standard on it. If it comes factory installed with ROPS,
exactly,
it has to be worn.
right.
You know, and that's why I put in the last sentence, motor vehicles on public roads. Okay, if we're at the shop and we're hooking up trailers, you're not gonna wear a seatbelt. But if you're operating that backhoe or that slope mower, or if you're taking a vehicle out on a public road, because the only
Yeah.
people that are exempt from seatbelt use are garbage men actively picking up garbage.
And I agree, I'm just saying,
So-
I would make it more inclusive of any safety feature that's factory
Cannot be
installed.
altered.
Because that includes seat belts, that installs, you know, if you have a lathe in the shop and a factory installed piece of Lexan as a safety shield, you gotta use that, you know?
Yep.
That just makes it a little bit more airtight.
So Scott's gonna clean that up then?
Yep.
Okay.
I would look into that though, is seeing if you
That
can
covers all the
glasses.
lockout, tag out too.
That would be probably worth
Put
the weight, so they are safe and they know the rules,
Yep.
Employees,
everything else.
do anything like that, it's contracted out. So I was trying to keep it simple, and have a little
Videos,
I mean,
cut
just
off their hand.
until the contractor can get to it.
Some modified safety ones are just terrible.
Yeah, something should be in there about that.
Kind of like wow, that's
That's
commercial.
commercial. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So, are we good to move on?
Yes.
Okay, number 5, updating the DPW job descriptions. Who made these revisions, or are these brand new descriptions?
These are, once again, hijacked from other communities. Just because of the fact we don't have anything in place for training, who's required to know what, who's required to do what. So this just kind of would bring us back into the modern day, what other communities are doing especially communities our size, where we have to get the most bang for our buck out of every employee. Because as it stands right now, you know, I have an employee that I can't call in on a lot of jobs because he doesn't have a CDL. And compare his hourly rate to other communities, he's actually making more money where other communities are required to have a CDL in that same job position. So I'm just trying to get it to where all of our employees are capable of performing all required job duties, whether it's with the CDL, with its an Eagle license, MISTIG certifications, stuff like that, because we're very limited and we're pigeonholed as to who we can use on certain jobs. So once again, I just took these from other communities, right from their websites, you know, large and small, put them on paper just to present to council. That way, council can do what they want with them. It's, you know, I don't get to make that decision, but I am required to educate council members on what's going on out there. But with the two positions that we have and the dollar amount that we're paying, I mean, we're not in line with industry standard. So that's why these were put together.
Yeah, and I guess to your previous point about the job requirements, and not to keep putting Scott on the hot seat here tonight, but you know, we can't retroactively put in a job requirement to an employee job description. I mean, realistically, it has to be written around their current job duties and capabilities. I mean, if, you know, I believe the employee in question is technically a general laborer, and is not CDL certified, I don't think that we can modify the requirements to say a commercial driver's license is required within 6 months of the hire date or adoption of these job requirements, right?
We're not a union though, we don't have a union, we don't have a binding agreement between any employee.
I guess my concern would be, I mean, if the village were to try to take a step towards leverage that employee to get that requirement, and then the village decides to part ways with said employee, that sounds like it has wrongful termination all over it, that we change their job description on the fly.
Yeah, the safer route, without getting into employment issues in a retroactive form, the safest route in this particular set of facts would be to, if the council's so inclined to change the job description to modernize it, that is best applied to the next subsequent employee.
Right.
As in what I'm saying is.
Not the existing.
Right, so in other words, we can't, the safer route is to just say, look, from this point going into the future, anyone we hire has to abide by these rules.
So our employees that are employed right now are grandfathered in, and new
Yeah.
employees coming in
Honestly,
would have to abide by the new.
The cleaner way to do it would be to have multiple levels of general laborer. And if you want to make general laborer 2, level 2, be a CDL requirement, one that actually gives structure to our employees to incentivize them to want to move on to the next level. And hey, here's the job requirements that you need to satisfy in order to get that promotion, right? I'm more comfortable doing that versus saying, well, here's the new job description, but you're grandfathered in. Does that make sense?
Well, they'd only be grandfathered in to the position they're in right now.
Correct.
Because if they went to get a promotion, that would be a new position.
Correct.
Then the new standards would have to take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, really, when you look around at other communities, it's not uncommon to see a variety of different job titles. And, you know, I think to structure it as level 1, 2, 3, 4, we put as many levels in there as we want that scale the requirements, which also scale with pay. you know, again, that's a way to incentivize employees to learn and grow with the village. And, you know, to that effect, you know, looking at the proposed job descriptions of general laborer versus operator, there's very little in here to suggest much differentiation between those job functions. I mean, literally, I lined them up and it's a copy paste with the exception of
The Eagle licenses.
the Eagle licensing.
Yep. Like I said, that's common practice and very standard across the board in all municipalities. Because I took those from municipalities. So that's why it's in there worded like that. You know, so we'll just stay status quo.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are good frameworks, but I would not be comfortable adopting these job descriptions as they're written today. I mean, even as an operator, it says, first sentence, under the direct supervision of the DPW supervisor, the employees perform general labor.
Because we all have to. That's, like I said, this is nothing that I dreamt up. This is standard municipality work, okay?
I understand
This is
that.
very run-of-the-mill, general vanilla job descriptions, labor, operator. Those are your two breakdowns. But, you know, you're not comfortable with it, fine. All I did was present information to the council. Because for far too long, things have not been getting done. And over the last year, they've caught up to this village. And we're facing a lot of issues right now. And moving forward to be a progressive community and try to be proactive instead of always reactive, we gotta have this stuff in writing and on the books and expectations of employees. Right now, we have 3 guys, and we're not getting the most bang for our buck out of our employees because we can't utilize everybody on all jobs, and it's hurting this village. You know, makes it very difficult from employment standards. You know, what jobs can whoever the supervisor is going to be, if it's not myself, makes it very difficult and pigeonholes us into certain things and handcuffs us going forward. You know, we're spending money where if it is just a salt application, I'm coming in to do it versus paying a laborer to do it at almost half my hourly rate, stuff like that. If I'm out of town, because, you know, I'm allowed to take time off, there is nobody. There's nobody here that has an Eagle license. There's nobody here that is certified in the MISDIG system to be a accurate and trusted locator. You know, there's nobody with Eagle licenses that can legally do waterworks. Heaven forbid, I go home tonight, get sick, get hurt, and I gotta take time off.
So what would you suggest we do about that?
My suggestion is since, you know, Scott's the attorney, we're not a union village, we're an at-will state. We gotta find a way to update our policies and our job descriptions. We need help. And I'm not saying it because of what I'm doing, I'm saying it as a village in a whole, we aren't providing a very good service, in my opinion, to every single one of you in this room that are taxpayers in this community. There's jobs right now that aren't being done because I don't have the manpower to do it. And I don't have guys with proper licenses to do it. Coming up here with the lead and copper stuff.
Now that possible hiree from Owasso,
Is he still interested?
is he still interested?
He is. You know, and he's already trained and licensed. He can walk
Fred's
in.
supposed to be meeting with him for a month now. Hasn't
He just-
happened.
You know,
Okay.
coming up to the lead and copper stuff. You know, it can't just be any Tom, Dick, or Harry off the street that's gonna be out verifying these service lines. It's not going to be that. Eagle does not allow that. Me with my license is not gonna allow that. If I don't trust the individual providing me the information, it's not gonna be submitted. You know, after hours this weekend, I'm gonna be in Saginaw fishing probably, you know. My phone rings, I don't have anybody that I can call to legally handle things, in my absence. Okay, on a water main break, somebody has to be there that is Eagle certified. Okay,
Is he Eagle certified?
that he is. And he
Why
just
not hire him?
tested 3 weeks ago, the beginning of May for a license. So, you know, that's why I put out of all these different communities that I went to their website, pulled job descriptions from. I'm trying to get something in writing to help this community, because we are lagging and doing a disservice to the citizens of this community by not having licensed and trained, and I don't want to use the word competent, but I can't call certain people in for certain tasks. And it's really affecting this village. Like I said, I've got jobs on the plate right now that aren't being done because I don't have anybody to do them. I'm buried in compliance work. I got nobody else to go out and do stuff.
So well, before I say that, Scott, you've been holding your tongue.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jones is correct, we're an at-will state, we're non-union as a village. However, through the policy, we do have 5.02, the village may terminate employment of an employee for just cause. Effectively, we're bound by just cause. We have to provide a sufficient reason for the termination.
Right.
We're not at will, as at will truly is, where I don't need to give you a reason, just leave.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So we are bound by that. So, that was the first piece. What was the next piece we were going with this? The question is.
Required a CDL of all.
Oh,
Can we change current employees to be required to obtain CDL and/or Eagle licensing? They don't have to have the highest licenses to become the operator in charge. Start out at the bottom, that way they have, you know, knowledge of what's supposed to be done, how it's supposed to be done. That way, if I'm not there, Eagle can say, well, there was a licensed operator on site, you know.
well, and that goes to the job description, and I think that we've already crossed that bridge of, this is gonna be any change in job description is gonna be for future employment. Now, is the question you're asking me, is that into the retro form now?
Can we
Go
require
back.
current employees that don't have a commercial driver's license to obtain a commercial driver's license?
I think with the safest route for me, short of writing an opinion out on this thing, would be that the only way that if you want current employees to get certain licenses, we have to incentivize them by pay.
Right.
That'd be the only way, because if you're to say, hey, look, you got 6 months to get a CDL, otherwise you're out of a job, I think they would have an argument against us as far as being a just cause employee, because the policy changed after they showed up.
You know, so to incentivize it, there's no minimum incentive, correct? We can say, hey, you know, get 25-cent raise or whatever. Because right now, the employee that I'm talking about, his hourly rate is higher than laborers in other communities that are required to have a CDL. And I can show it to you on a community's website that I do believe you represent, a few miles north of here. Their union agreement is on their website and it shows their rates. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole host of factors. I mean, you got, I don't know this particular employee we're talking about, but I don't know if seniority is an issue. Local market forces versus market forces of the north. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons why possibly someone here is making more per hour than somebody up there.
And I get that. I'm just trying to use that as an example and a baseline to show that we aren't in line with most other communities. I can go to Fowlerville, same thing, you know, their requirements. Williamston, same thing, you know. So I'm trying to bring us current and provide a level of service to this community that has not been provided for many years. All this snowballing, and here we are, you know, we got a lot of stuff coming at us because of all these factors, you know. So that's my intent in having a black and white job description, and then trying to get our current employees, you know, some sort of licensing. Because right now it's all, you know, it's me or it's nothing. And, you know, so that was my intent on that. You know, if you're saying that, you know, probably going forward, apply it to new hires. Problem is the employee that does not have a CDL, he's not gonna go anywhere. He's gonna be here the rest of his life.
Yeah.
You know, and so what do we do?
Well, at this point, we have to live with it barring some just cause reason for termination.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you cannot retroact job descriptions. All I am saying is that from my experience, without double checking that,
it could get
the safer route is to apply it to someone in the future.
Right.
And if you're trying to motivate someone to get these licenses, I get your point. You're saying, hey, look, these folks are making good money even without incentivizing them to get the license. I mean, and that their position actually, they've got a better deal here as far as the market forces go than what they're truly entitled to if you do a comparative analysis. But I'm just cautioning the village. If the village wants me to write an opinion to see if retro job descriptions has a possible implication of termination if someone doesn't comply, I can do that. I'm just telling you from my experience, about 20 years worth of experience in HR, whether it be union, non-union settings, attorney, prior to being an attorney. If you're gonna apply a new job description, it's safer to move forward with whomever the new hire would be.
And that makes, you know, it makes sense. I understand that.
I don't think it's necessary to have a formal opinion on that. I think it's pretty well understood. Dan, you had a question?
Couldn't the village just say, hey, look, you know, things are changing. We want you to have a CDL and you either gotta go to Brighton to get it, East Lansing to the Secretary of State's. We'll pay you 4 hours. We'll give you 4 hours to go and get it, show us proof you have it, and we'll pay for it.
Now they gotta go to it's a 4-day class for Class B CDL.
Yeah, and I've never
Is that
personally.
available online?
No, it's in person. You have to go to it. It's about $4,000. Common practice in this industry now. If a community doesn't pay it up front, they reimburse. Then they put a clause in. If we paid for your CDL, you cannot voluntarily leave your employment for 2 years, but obviously we can get rid of you. Otherwise, you gotta pay us back.
Right.
Because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, see, I didn't have to go through all
Right,
the
neither did
classes
I.
and that.
Back then, I did mine in half a day, you know, but it's changed now, so.
And to that point, you can incentivize. I mean, you can say, look, we're short on labor, we need people with this, and we're willing to, I'm just spitballing.
Right.
Well, Brad was approached about a pay raise for this employee.
I was kind of along the lines of him, saying, look,
but
we
we
need
can give
this.
you an incentive,
And
paying for it and a slight pay increase.
And I believe that has been put out there. I've not personally talked to this employee regarding this topic. It's not my purview, but my understanding has been that he's been approached and offered that incentive and he is just not interested.
Well, he's not, because he attempted to get a chauffeur's license and it didn't go well for him. So I've been in talks with him. What can we do to help this along? I've checked with Secretary of State with their arrangements with helping people on their learner's permit. I've been in contact with 2 different truck driving schools that you have to go to get a license, because that's what you have to do now. And they do offer some
accessibility programs for, you know, for individuals. Everybody's on a case-by-case basis, but he is, you know, kind of led me to believe that, you know, if we're gonna help him and basically take him and do this, that he would be interested in doing it. I spoke with Lana about it. She's got a lot of different resources that are possible. You know, just because on a village side of things, you know, I do believe it's something that we need to get going on. And then like Scott said, for all new hires, you know, having that.
Yep.
But I'm trying to, you know, get us to where we are far more efficient in providing services to this community.
Right.
So that was the whole goal here. So yeah.
And again, I go back to, my opinion on the matter is, we currently have one general laborer and 2 DPW operators. You are an operator on paper today, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I would be tempted to say, general laborer needs to be, the job description needs to be written around the job task that the individual is doing today. And if we want to include general laborer level 2 as a separate description, if we wanted to hire somebody with, you know, more stringent requirements, we could do that. For operator, I would suggest the same thing of, you know, right now we have an operator who's not as licensed as you are, carving out, you know, DPW operator level 2 that has the, you know, those certs, and we go from there.
That's, personally, it's just overcomplicating it. You make a laborer, you make an operator. Laborer has these standards, operator has these, but, you know, it's getting late, I say we just leave it as now, because we're not gonna make any decisions tonight, but, you know, it's in black and white, we have something to start on, move from there.
Okay. So table the discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, you were kind of thumbing through, did you have anything else to say?
No, I was just I was thinking of different angles on this whole question that we have before us, but, really, for me to give you any, I'd be better off doing a little study before
Okay.
Exactly.
I give you guys a little more information.
No, we put a lot on you tonight. And
We made you work hard.
Man, I'm telling you.
And then we hijacked his report time.
I know. Josh, you're looking red like you have something to say, you know?
No, I'm probably right, because I've been eating all day, so. I wasn't assuming this meeting would be this long. My fasting is, you know,
Nearing its
going a little
end.
too far.
You'll bring us pizza next time, right?
Yeah.
Number 6 and number 7, looks like Joe Warner and Diana Baxter would like to continue to serve on the WDEA for an additional 4 years. So I would recommend to the council that we reappoint Joe Warner to the WDEA for a 4-year term.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call?
Schoenberg? Yes. Stanfield?
yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Yes. And I would also recommend to the council that we reappoint Diana Baxter to the WDDA for a 4-year position.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Schoenberg? Yes. Stanfield?
Yes.
Walter? Schulte?
Yes. Okay, last item here is the NISA board appointment, to be Sandra second. So Lana, you've gone to the last meeting.
And the other one.
Yep, and I think I don't know if we're required, but I think it makes sense to have a second if you're unavailable.
Yeah, so the thing of it is, the reason we actually have to have this, we have to have an appointed person, and we have to have a second. We can't just decide, since I can't go and Lana can't go, then, you know, that's gonna go. Because only 2 people are legally allowed to vote. So it's either me or Brad or whatever, and so we just need to have that verbiage in there so that Lisa knows that.
Okay. And you're comfortable and interested?
I'm fine, I actually enjoy it.
Okay. I recommend to the council that we appoint Lon Stanfield as Sandra's second for the NISA board.
So motion.
Roll call. Or is there a second on the floor?
A second.
Second by Sandra, roll call?
Schoenberg?
Yes, Stanfield?
Yes.
Mulder?
Yes. Anything from the live stream?
No, I'm just checking.
Nope. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn at 9:15 p.m.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Do we have a second?
Oh, so, was there a second?
Second.
Thought I heard.
No? Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, you're on it.
Oh,
All right.